A couple months ago, I made a video about Nuno Bettencourt's guitar solo from the new Extreme song called Rise. Here's a little clip.
It pisses me off because you're way more famous than I am right now, and it's like, it's really annoying.
In the comments section, everybody was saying, when are you going to have Nuno in for an interview? So I reached out to Nuno. We've known each other for a couple years, and I found out he was coming through town, so I had him come in the studio.
More people hit me up about fucking your thing, talking about me, than even telling me, hey, song sounds great. It was only great after you fucking did something. People were like, dude, the song's great. Did you see what Beato just did? I'm like, what? You couldn't call me before and say it was a fucking great song now that he says it's a great song? Yeah, dude, he says it's great. So, dude, congratulations. You're fucking great. I'm like,
Another hot topic from the Nuno solo video was whether Nuno was playing this with a delay or not. And as you can see from here, he doesn't need a delay. Here's the interview.
I was told when I was on the Generation X tour, I was trying to scope this out because when you're next to, you got you and then you got Zach Wilde and you got Steve Vai and Yngwie and Tosin Abasi. I was trying to think, like, does everybody have a first lick they play? A go-to when they're dialing in this shit? Do you?
Me? No.
No? I do.
What is it?
I was like, because I was trying to see, am I the only nutcase?
Is it your own lick or is it?
Yeah, it's really egotistical. It's really self-centered. It's my. I always, you know what it is though. I mean,
why wouldn't you play your own lick? That only makes sense.
I know, but why not like a great Edward lick or something? Why does it have to be your own? No, but it was this riff from He-Man Woman Hater off of Porn Graffiti, and I think the reason I've always played that first is because it's my way to make sure my amp in the bottom end and the rat pedal and everything is tight and dialed in.
Okay, we need to talk about the rat pedal.
Okay.
Let's just we got to go there.
Oh no, okay.
So Nuno flew in and he has a rat pedal that he's had forever. Explain how much this rat pedal is important and how you use this thing, because you don't use it like you would normally use a rat pedal.
Yeah, it's important to the fact that I didn't sleep at all last night because TSA went through I have this case with both my N4s in it. It's a new one. I usually carry normal cases, but it was easier for tour, and there was a compartment to put all your pedals in, which I usually carry on my person. And instead I'm like, oh, this is super cool. It's all gonna just be together and, you know, okay, bye everybody, I'll see you in Atlanta. And then I got to the hotel room and I opened it and the pedals were gone.
Did it have a card in there saying it was searched by TSA?
Of course it did. Of course it did. My favorite card that I just crumple up and I'm like, damn you, TSA.
Okay, talk about this rat pedal though.
The reason it's really important, and most people probably, anybody watching or even, actually you got me because you were the only person I've met in 35, 40 years of playing guitar that actually uses a rat pedal for the same reason I use it, and it's not for distortion. It's really, mostly they made it because it's a distortion pedal. You plug into a clean amp, distortion up, you got a volume, little filter. But I found when I was trying it, when I was like 12 or 13, that when I turned off all the distortion at like, I don't know, let's call it between like, 9 o'clock and the volume up at like, 3 o'clock and just in the center, like wings, perfect little cross. Let's get a little religious. When I put it on and off, and I have anybody play through it, nobody heard anything. It's like the battery's dead. Literally, people said you got to change your battery. I'm like, no, leave it. It's working. Can't you hear it? They're like, no, it's doing absolutely nothing. I'm like, okay. And I remember going through this on the Gen X tour, and I put it on somebody, and I said, and they play it, and they go, you're out of your fucking mind. There's nothing happening here. What's wrong with you, Bettencourt? You got to go to see a doctor or now I said, now play something percussive. Play something on the bottom end, like chug something, or like even, for instance, like let's say the Rise solo, since people are talking about that bit at the end, could never sound kick drumish like it is without that rat pedal doing nothing. Because what the rat pedal does is it takes any amplifier going from your guitar straight into it. It sits on my amp, it's always sat on my amp, and it goes into the head. And the second you put it on and you hit that bottom end, a kick drum is the best way to describe it. Imagine like a floppy kick drum that they're tuning. All of a sudden you tighten it up and you get that click and you get that thing. It churns your attack and your chordal, everything you do, and chunkier, bigger, fatter, tighter.
Yeah, high passes the guitar into the amp and tightens up your sound.
Tightens up the sound. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you get used to that as part of your DNA, when somebody takes that, of course you can do a gig. I can do a gig, I'm a professional. I'll cry through the whole thing without it, and I'll complain. But yeah, I've had my rat pedals stolen off stage. I usually have 2 or 3 of them. They sound fairly the same, the 80s versions. But yeah, I was up all night because we got a gig a couple of days, and I was thinking I can find one, right? And we were looked online, like they're like $600-700. Got to ship it from different parts of the globe. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it for the show.
Wait, what else is on the pedal board other than what are the important pedals that you need?
That's it.
Just
That's
the rat
it.
pedal.
So everything you hear that I've ever played,
Yeah.
there is nothing on the guitar.
Yeah.
Zero, because I've always felt that, and by the way, I love myself, a good chorus for a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And some delay for the solos, but those are things that color after the fact for certain tones of the song. You're playing, your fingers and everything else. The greatest example is Edward. When Edward first was playing, and you could hear how direct and how his fingers affected the strings. When you started splitting, when more in the Sammy era, when they started splitting to the chorus,
using chorus, yeah.
you lose a lot of Edward's DNA and
you lose the attack. You lose that.
You lose the attack. You lose where you don't realize that until you actually get to play Eddie's rig in front of Eddie like I did, and I thought I was finally going to sound like him. I think I told you the story, and I was so bummed out because I'm like, I have his strings. I even have his sweat on the strings. I have his DNA. I got his amp. I just watched him rehearse. And he's asking me to play his rig. I'm going to finally, after fucking decades of A being VH1 and VH2 to my sound on Poor Graffiti, I'm finally going to sound like Edward. And I was so fucking disappointed I sounded just like me. It was so horrible. It was like a horrible nightmare. And I realized...
What did Eddie say about that? Was he laughing?
Well, no. What he did was like, well, the first thing is like, when I walked at Dweezil, when I was doing that record, Dweezil brought me in to meet him, and Edward stopped playing, and sometimes when you meet your idols, it can go bad, right? They can go tell you to go fuck yourself, or Edward comes over, gives you a big kiss on the lips, by the way, which I felt really special, but then I found out he did it to Kurt Cobain and everybody else, so it wasn't just me. He cheated on me with everybody. But then I was just dreaming, I was like, there it is, there's the tone. Man, I was fantasizing, like, I wish everybody would just fucking leave and let me play this rig. They take a break, Ed was like, come and play my rig. I'm like, uh-oh, you wish just came true, but there's only one problem. Edward's right there. And he goes, I want to try this. I want to try dialing this new pedal, man. Just play. So what the fuck do you play when Edward's like kneeling down over there and you're like, clunk, and you plug in? I'm like, okay. I had just got out of the studio. I was just doing Porn Graffiti. And I'm like, oh, I came up with this fucking thing I thought was decent where it was tapping, but I was like string skipping. It was Get the Funk Out solo, this thing that goes up. But it's not the typical one ring thing. I'm like, oh, I'm string skipping with tapping. That's different. Let me try that. Because, the second I go to do that and I start playing it, he stops me and goes, hey. He goes, none of that silly shit here. I'm like, oh, okay. And then, so your hero, your god, and he laughed. He actually turned back and said, I'm just fucking with you. It wasn't an article I had just done in Guitar Player magazine that I said, any of us who do tapping, any of us, ever since 1978, feel silly because it's Edward. He owns it. So he must have read the fucking thing. He goes, none of that silly shit. So he didn't take it like I saying it was silly. But so that was an incredible...
What did it sound like, though, when you're playing through his rig?
It sounded
just like you.
It sounded just like me. I'm telling you, I was literally like, you could have... It sounded like me.
Were you disappointed?
Super disappointed. I was like, I'm never gonna sound like Edward, ever. You know what that kind of awakening is? Like that, you're never gonna get there. And but then it made me realize that was the big bitch slap of all times where you realize, holy shit, it's all about you. It's all about your fingers, and it's not even just your fingers here. It's where you hold the pick. And how much you hold the pick and how much harmonic comes out and where you touch it. But you don't think about those things, but that's how individual we are. When I listen to you play on your videos, you have a certain sound the way you play. When I hear and it's just everybody knows their own sort of lane and the tone that they are. I mean, obviously creatively that's not enough. You got to still be creative. But tone-wise, I realize that the least amount of things between your fingers or strings and that amp is going to be the most you will ever sound like yourself, whether you like it or not, whether you want it to sound like Edward or not. And I started to own it. I started realizing I don't want anything in front of it, and the rat pedal is the only thing ever I've had between. That's basically, and I was just, let me drop another name, Steve Vai, but let me pick that up. But Steve wanted to hear the album. He was on tour, and he asked before it came out, so I went by his studio, amazing studio that he has, and we were just playing it. And he was sitting in front of his speakers, and he said something to me. He goes, okay, we're not going to stop it. I'm just going to listen to it from top to bottom and treat it like an album. He stops it after the first song. I'm like, you said you weren't going to stop it. Are you going to critique it now? I can't have Steve Vai critique. He goes, no. He goes, how did you get the sound of the guitar to be right there? I'm like, you mean the speaker? He goes, no. I'm pointing to the speaker, but no, right here. Like, it's in my ear, it's in my eye. How did you do that? And I'm like, because there's nothing. Do nothing. Don't do any reverb, don't do anything. It's just like in your face, clunky, gunky, and all mistakes, all warts, whatever it is, let it be. And and the whole album, and I've always recorded like that, very dry, very in your face. And to me, that's when you know what somebody really sounds like.
Are you using no delay in the Rise solo at all?
You mean not delay to delay?
No, just to give it that.
To give it no,
just
not
to give it
zero.
a little bit of ambience.
Oh, ambience wise, there is
Yeah.
maybe a little bit. The delay is not your friend on that section.
Yeah,
it messes things up. So there isn't. Somebody was asking me if like Bumblebee, I use a delay to make it's like more. It was more of an exercise to create a slapback type thing. And all the original videos saying that he's definitely doing that on that song. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. It's not on that
I
song.
didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that. But people were accusing me of it. You were accusing me.
And alternate picking.
Yeah. Actually, it's alternate picking, but you brought up the fact that it's
some of the tapping with the left hand.
It's like there's a
Nuno,
three-way.
you can't play that stuff slow though, right?
I can't do it. When I was watching you do it, I was sweating watching you play it slow. And
well, that's good because I can't play it fast. If I practiced it a few days later and stuff, I'd be able to.
Yeah, you can do it, but it's actually if somebody knows the pattern and they do it, they're gonna go. That's why when you were doing it and you were actually slowing that down, I was like, once again, it was the Eddie Van Halen story all over again. I was disappointed with myself. I'm like, that's it? That's all I'm doing? It's that.
It's all about the chords.
And then I'm
too,
hearing
you know?
like notes doubling up.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
which is amazing.
Which is like, okay, what does that even?
No, that's what it sounds. That's what
makes people probably lose their minds. But
that's
yes,
right.
And then you brought up the chords underneath, which I didn't really notice what they. I telling Rick, I don't, other than majors and minors, I don't read music. I don't know. I do a perverted ninth. You know that chord? I made that up. I do perverted ninth. I do, but other than a few diminished, which is really, I don't really know.
You do use diminished chords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot. I do use chords, different chords. I just don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I just don't know, like, until somebody breaks it down. I just do stuff that
That's
sounds.
from listening to Aerosmith and Queen and all these bands that used. They used all these.
Yeah, all these cool chords, and I think I also. Let me see if I say this reverse. Vocalize a lot of chords, meaning. I know what I want them to hear in vocals, like the vocals on the Rise section. Those
right during those harmonies that you're singing.
Yeah,
and that's
singing.
Really behind the guitar solo.
Yeah,
makes it sound massive.
Yeah. Well, I wish more people would notice that type of stuff. We were talking about Edward, and I was always saying that somebody would ask, "Hey, I wanted some advice on how do you approach a guitar solo in a song." And because I was going to say, it's instrumental, like all bets are off, go for it. But in a song, and I was just telling him, it was like, do you work it out? Do you not work it out? And I was saying, man, I really believe that the guitar players that I grew up on, Brian May in a band, in songs, Edward in a band with songs, Page with songs as well, like all the guitar players that are really attracted to, like, Elliot Easton, the greatest of all time of playing a solo in a song.
Right.
Neil Sean, most memorable solos. Elliot Easton's probably one of the most underrated in that department. You can sing every fucking Elliot Easton song. Yep. Every one of them, you can sing it. It's a melody. It's memorable, and it's the most difficult thing to do it in like 30 seconds. Perfect for the song, and you still want to go back and hear it over and over. And his tone, everything about it is just perfection.
Yeah.
Elliot, anybody's probably the Cars. Just go listen to every fucking track. It's so, but that's what I strive for. So when somebody says in a solo, to me, it's just like you have to. If you're gonna do a piece by yourself, like an Eruption, or you're gonna do Bumblebee, or you're gonna do Midnight Express, like I do, you can mess around and you go for it because it's a solo piece. But when somebody says take a solo in a song, I think you as a guitar player, you make two choices. One is you're gonna be like, it's my time to shine, bitches. Like, look out, here I go, and I'm gonna show you what I can do. More like an Olympics. I call it the Guitar Olympics, where people are gonna put up, it's a 9, it's an 8. But I believe that there's I believe that there's a world. I believe that there's a world. Like, I never wanted to be part of the Guitar Olympics ever, even though some people will consider, but you are because of technically what you do. But this is where the importance of soloing in a song really defines a guitar player for me. You have a choice. You're going to go for the Olympics, or you're going to let this amazing song that you love, that's going on your album, guide you and talk to you and show you where to go. And listen to it and feed off it. And that means the riff, That means the groove, especially for me. That means the energy. Is it a fast song? Is it Play With Me off the first album where it's and then you go there? Is it a beautiful piece? There's a song, maybe when you hear it on the album, there's a song called Hurricane. It's an acoustic song on the album. And it's a song, it's a very somber song, beautiful, but it was about a friend of mine, one of my best friends who passed away right before the pandemic in a motorcycle accident. I went to play that solo, and I'm like, I'm gonna do a solo. And then once I got lost in the song and I went to play solo, I literally hit one note and I couldn't play anymore, emotionally. And then I started playing again. I stopped playing because of what the song did to me emotionally, lyrically, mood-wise, and I left it as it is. And as much as a guitar player, you know, the Olympiads are gonna go, wow, that's not his best work, or you know, that's not as jaw-dropping as Rise, that could be the best compliment I could ever hear. It happened already with the new song Banshee. It's like, yeah, it's a good solo. It's just not, we're waiting. It wasn't as jaw-dropping and you know, we didn't put up the 10s on like we did on Rise. That's a compliment to me, seriously, because that means that as much as you already have the tools you have. You already have the speed that you've built up. You have all these utility belt things that you do. You have your go-to. You have your taps. All that stuff, muted, palm muting, all that stuff. It's there. Those are technical things you learn. But just like any other artist that paints or anything else, you would hope that when they get to the song and they get to that solo, that they don't think about, I got to go impress somebody. You have to just let the song guide you, let your rhythm section guide you, the lyrics even guide you. What is the song talking about? What does it make you feel? Is the song shot, 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 shot? You know, is it a drinking song? Is it Van Halen? Is it a party like, you know, Hot for Teacher? Or is it, you know, where have all the good times gone? And it's a little bit more somber. And so my point being is, the perfect example is when you go in, you try to create a song within the song. You have an opportunity here still to be technical, because you already have that. You have the ability to be soulful, but the main thing for me is the emotion has to be there. If this fucking solo does not touch you or raise the hairs on your arms for many different reasons, whether it is the speed of it, whether it is, you know, because the speed can be great in an energetic song.
Right.
You know, you don't, that fucking myth that people say that, oh, when you play with feel, you got to be David Gilmour. David Gilmour plays with feel because it's slow and it's beautiful. You can play with feel and shred the fuck out of somebody. You can have a pocket and feel and make that thing pump. Even in the Rise bit, since we're on it, at the end, if you really, really pay attention to that, there is something happening there. And when you noticed it when you broke it down, there's a pump going on. It's not, it's a, there's something still going that you can hear what I was feeling when I was doing it. You know, the breathing, the physicality of it. And I think that's what excites people. I really believe that's what excites people, because as far as playing fast, come on. Online right now, the guitar players that we see on Instagram right now, and you've had some of them here on, you know, the Polyphia guys and all those guys, they're doing shit that I can't even, please, technically it leaves me and you and everybody else in the dust, because it's such a different bar of like technicality. That's great. And I love it. And I'm impressed. Like, you know, I tell Matteo Sasato, all these guys are all incredible, but he plays with feel as well. And but all of a sudden he can go like, okay, I'm just fucking with you. I can do this as well. So, but my point is, it's like, if you, when people were watching the Rise solo, I was kind of pulling back and I was seeing like, wow, the song was just released 24 hours ago. Why is my phone blowing up? Why is this happening? Why is Brian May even like hit me up? Why is Rick Beato, who I admire, why is he even featuring the solo? And Lukather's texting me, like you said, like people are hitting you up, your peers.
Right, people are hitting me up about your solo.
But that's my point. So then when you have like family, people need to go, okay, what really is going on here? And I kind of noticed something. I'm like, look, solo's decent. It's a decent guitar solo. Song is a decent song. I don't even think it's the best solo on the album. I don't even think it's the best song on the album. But what I did notice is this. First off, I think people are fucking starved. Starved for fucking guitar within a song.
Yes.
Where somebody, I didn't want to say it out loud because I never want anybody to be offended by what I'm about to say, but you tried to be polite at the end of it. You said, you were like, yeah, 80%, fuck that. 100% of people are sitting down in a room, we're following them, and they're blowing our minds. They're playing stuff, and we're seeing them on Instagram. We're like, fuck you, that's amazing. But there's something there. It's technical. It's them sitting, and they're showing us something. I don't know that we're feeling a lot. We're just going like the guitar player in us is going, I fucking love that. What is that? That's amazing. All of a sudden, I don't give a fuck if it's Extreme or Nuno or anybody else. You see a video like that. And what do you see? It's what you see and what you hear equals what you feel. Meaning you're watching, you're being reminded that there's a physicality and an emotionality, a fire and a want and a passion to an instrument. And you're seeing it and you're going, oh my God, like it was like almost like seeing something like, I think the video was just as important, if not more important than the solo itself, because they needed to see the spirit and the joy, right? The want to be there and play that fucking thing. That's what we used to see in Eddie. Eddie brought the joy into guitar playing. He brought the fire, the passion. That's what Page did. That's what I was, and by no means am I even fucking putting myself in their conversation. I'm just saying where I got it from. It wasn't just the playing. It was like how it made me feel. It made me want to be in a rock band. It made me want to get on a stage, not sit in a chair. It made me want to made me want to suffer and struggle in a fucking garage in a van for 5 years and eat nothing and sleep in a rehearsal space with Extreme when rats, I thought the higher I'd climb, put the cases out where I slept at night that the rats weren't going to get me. I didn't realize they could climb. But my point is you suffered for it because you couldn't wait till your next fucking gig. Why couldn't you wait till your next gig? Because you were going to, not playing guitar, you were going to be on a stage and you were going to share that with somebody. You're going to share your energy, the danger of doing it once, the excitement of doing it once and getting it like fucking, but blacking out. And I'm telling you, I've done drugs. I've toured with people who've done drugs. And I'm convinced that the majority of musicians that do drugs, that get fucked up and end up even going places that they shouldn't, is because they've experienced the greatest drug of all. And the greatest drug of all is being on that fucking stage and playing a song for an audience and having that reaction, them singing with you, or them just fucking like, it's an escape for everybody. People come to see you play to escape their shit. And you're there doing that for them and with them, and they're coming with you. I used to think I was entertaining people. I'm not. They're coming there to go with you. They go, I want to hang with you for a minute. Take me fucking with you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I used to think like we'd have to try hard and jump around and play the song, and I forgot, no, wait a second. The physicality and the passion comes from what I'm doing. They want to see what I'm doing. They don't want to be like, we're not at a circus just getting entertained by somebody on a thing. They like, take me from my shit and take me on that journey with your lyrics, your melodies, your guitar solos, your grooves, your show, your set, everything. So when I finish, I'm like, fuck. All right, I can go back to work tomorrow.
Okay, so I want to know...
I just went all over the place. I'm so sorry.
I want to know, now I'm thinking about the Olympiad thing. What are the Olympiad solos? First time you heard Eruption, what did you think?
Wow. Wow was probably... I just said wow, just trying to think of what I said. But I think it was just confusion.
Like, what is this, right?
What is this? But... the funny thing is that I was already at What Is This from Running with the Devil. Right, just the rhythm played. I'm like, I'm like, what is this? I'm like, you had no idea what's coming. We had no idea what's coming. Changing chords, playing parts with I mean, what the fuck? Like, he brought the thing that Edward did. I mean, Edward alone, if you want to talk about the Olympiad of all Olympiads, is that he decided at some point, because I truly believe because he was a drummer first, he decided, wait a second, while everybody else was playing riffs, like Sabbath and even Page, and then we'd have a solo for you. He's like, fuck that. I'm not waiting until I get there. He's like, I'm going to play some rhythm, and then when there's transitions and turnarounds, I'm going to play some fucking fills.
Yeah.
Put some drum fills. We're the drum fills here. Even if he's doing it, even if Alex is doing it, even better if he's doing it with me, because we're brothers. But he brought that joy and that pizzazz and that fucking creativity to the other 3 minutes of a song. Wow. Like, what the fuck? That alone, I know we can go into Eruption, we haven't gone into the solos yet, but that alone fucked me up for the rest of my life. That was it. That was like, oh my God, like this is the instrument. This is the instrument to get creative. This is the instrument to chordal things to be creative. Chords can be not just chords. You don't have to just play chords. You can chords with movements, chords with things going on. And I think Edward really did that. He did that. He changed the game. And those Olympiad solos, obviously. The thing about Edward that's really fucking cool though, and I think that shouldn't be overlooked, is I was thinking about this the other day, was that even though he blew your mind, even though he did things that made you go like, what the fuck? And even though he did things that you would thought like, my God, I wish I could play that, they were still attainable. They were still just reachable for the mortals.
Right.
You know what I mean? He did it. It's like the best pop version of rock guitar you could find. Meaning what? Meaning like it was so creative. The best way I can describe it, I've been having trouble describing things, and I had to make up I'm a high school dropout, so forget my education. But I made up a word called simplexity. I had to figure. I was like, what is a pop song? What is something? Why are we even as adults so obsessed with like a 3.5-minute song that, and at the end of the day, the only difference between that and a nursery rhyme is it's for adults. The lyrics for adults. It still rhymes. It still sing along on the chorus. What's the difference between London Bridge and fucking Ain't Talking About Love? Not much. But what's the difference is
great guitar tone.
Great guitar tone, absolutely. The London Bridge, man. If Brian did that, but my point being is like it's a simple song. Mm-hmm. They're all simple. So we've been doing the same arrangement in rock and roll and pop that everybody's been doing for how many years? 60, 70, 100 years? Verse, chorus, bridge, solo, out chorus, get in the limo, go home. You know what I mean? Like that's it. But then that's the simple part. But then it can be complex lyrically if you wanted to. It can be poetic, but you got to like go in and pull back layers. A solo, a guitar part. That's the complexity of it. So that's why simplexity is when you know something is genius. Because come on, if somebody wants to play through a whole song and rip, I think that's kind of easy to me. You have to maintain control and within a song, entertain people with guitar while lyrics are going on, hooks and everything as a guitar player, and orchestrate that and kind of juxtapose and make it where you go back and you go, oh fuck, what was that? But you're still singing the song and you're still doing everything. You're not talking over everybody. That's what Edward did so well. And that to me is what really, how he changed the game. I think that simplexity that he had set the bar, for me anyways, it set the bar where it's like if I can get anywhere close to that, where I can play for the song like that and be creative like that, that to me is like, that's what I mean by like Edward having the balls to do Eruption and then go to Ain't Talking About Love.
The thing that I love about your playing that is similar to Eddie's is you're such a great rhythm player for the same reasons, for playing drums.
Right.
Your rhythm playing is so tight, it's so rhythmic. The pocket to it is so great. And that is the thing about Eddie, and people know this about him, the swing in his playing, that so many guitar players lack is that type of feel. And to be able to do that and be able to play leads. When I heard the first Van Halen record, I'm listening through to it, and it's just blowing my mind. And then I heard Ice Cream Man, the break on Ice Cream Man, and I was like, what? Who comes up with stuff like that?
Yeah,
that's
he was swinging. And who else swung like that? I don't think anybody's ever swung. And by the way, a band, what are they fucking from the 1920s and roaring 30s and forth? No other band really did that. You might have heard a track or two from ZZ Top. Maybe that's where they get that influence from.
Right.
You know,
Nobody did shuffles like that.
Nobody did shuffles like this, and these guys were doing it on fucking steroids. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, all it was missing was the big band. Really, and they were taking care of that with ba ba da shoo doo ba 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 ba. They were doing it with vocals. They were doing it with drums. But you're right. It's the one thing is even when I play with a drummer, I tell him, why do we even have a beat in a song? Like, what's the purpose? Why does somebody go boom, boom, boom? It's to dance. It's to move. It's to get locked into something. And to me, you got to dance. I know that might sound a little uncomfortable for most people, but you got to dance. Even on the guitar, it's always a dance. It's always and I always say whatever the tempo is, whatever that is, there's all those eighths and 16th notes and 32nd notes that should always be. There's always a tambourine in my head. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? So even I think for Edward as well. So even if it's like going boom, you're still in your head. That I always hear that and feel that in my whole body. So that gives you places to go instead of just somebody keeping time for you. They're keeping time, but you have so many variables to go to within that scope. So to me, something about sitting down as well, you got to try to stand up as much as you can when you play, or at least when you perform, because I also think physically that brings something else to the table.
Absolutely.
I think that brings some movement and brings something in you, your shoulder shrugging or whatever it is. That's a swag that you hear that goes from here to here. If you just like this, and I know we all do it. We all do it. It's by the way, it's easier to play like this. It's a lot easier to play like this. But we all do it, and we practice like that, and that's fine. But if you really, really, really want to know rhythm, you have to. Okay,
so let me ask you this, Nuno. Do you sit down when you play solos if you're in the studio, and you stand up and play rhythm?
No, I stand up for all of it. I have to stand up for all of it, and one of the reasons is for that reason.
Yeah.
It's just like, when I sit down and play it, and I've done it, and I'll do it, sometimes just old and tired, and I'll sit down and play it, but I see I'm like, oh wow, I nailed it. I don't feel anything, but I nailed it. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. That's the problem. You have to, that's the Olympiad versus the messy guy, right?
Right.
You have to somewhere meet in the middle where you don't think about it, and where you're okay. In the rise solo, when you went for the first bend, nobody knows that they're going to go, oh, that's a cool sound. The first bend of the fucking rise solo, I missed 2 strings completely. I literally was supposed to go and it was supposed to be 1 note and 3 strings came out. It sounded like a car accident with a horn and something else. And I literally went, oh my God, that was fucking amazing. That turned me on. I could never replicate it. I'm trying to do it now at the hotel. I'm trying to replicate that sound. I never will. Why? Because it was the danger of letting go and saying, let's see what the fuck happens. Instead of going calculating it and going like, I want this to happen. How do I make it happen? I go like this. I go it and I got it. Okay, great. I nailed it. We've all done that before, and we'll probably do it again. But I can guarantee you that the reaction of the rise solo, I bet I don't have a lot of money, but I bet my children's lives, everybody on it, that it's the emotion of it that people aren't seeing but are feeling. They're not going to verbalize it. They're just going to go, oh wow, that section you play. Oh wow, it's that thing. What they're doing is they're feeling something. I can see it in their faces. I can see it in their faces. They're not just watching a guitar player going like, wow, that's a cool lick. Wow, look. They're more like, they're vacant almost, because it's all senses are going into overload, and it's watching the video, it's watching the band go all in, it's watching me going in for blood, it's watching the mythology of rock and roll, right? The mythology is what's missing. That's what I think everybody's freaking out about. We grew up on the mythology of watching a Van Halen on stage, watching fucking Madison Square Garden, Jimmy Page with his Les Paul. That part of it is when have we seen that? And we didn't do it on purpose. We just shot a video, and we just shot another few videos. That's what we do live. So I think all of a sudden, maybe, hopefully, when people start seeing, wait a second, we can go all in emotionally again. We're allowed to feel something and not just play and not just make sure we're perfect, because everybody's talking about AI now. AI. Oh my God, the world's going to end. AI on music. This is whatever. I go, I'm sorry, but AI has been here in music for the last 3 decades. It has. It's been here, people. I don't give a fuck if it's 90% of it, 80% of it, or 50% of it. Turn on the radio. Turn on the top 10 hits right now. I don't give a. You can call it AI. You can call it fucking auto-tune. You can call it whatever the fuck you want.
I tell people there's no difference between something that's heavily auto-tuned and AI. They can't tell the difference. So it's not going to matter if it's AI.
It's not going to matter. Everybody's going, oh my God, it's going to be AI. I'm like, great. Let it be more AI, because then we'll stick out even more. The guys who are playing like shit and the guys who are missing strings.
All right, so I'm gonna try and pin you down here, Nuno. Give me some of the Olympiad guitar solos first of all from your favorite players. What's a Brian May guitar solo?
I'm always horrible at this, because I'm that guy that afterwards I get to my hotel and I'm like, fuck, why didn't I think of this? Why didn't I think of that? I mean, for Brian...
Talk about Brian May. I know you love Brian May. Talk about Brian's tone and his approach.
Yeah, look, Brian, was it Good Company, the track that he did that little Dixieland band, and he did all these arrangements, and he sang the song, and you have to hear it because his arranging and his tones and everything else. But for me, with him, he was the bender for me. Mm-hmm. He was the guy that would bend a note, and I'm still, the reason I keep bringing up the Rise solo is because the Rise solo is a great epitome of like 3 or 4 influences that I have in the soup or the ingredients. And whenever you go for these bends, not pre-bends, Brian didn't bend pretty. When Brian hit a note, it sounded like the house was going to cave in. You don't know what the fuck was in the front end. You don't know what extra noise was shaking in the room. It was like, it's like this fucking, and of course it was a coin, and it was the fucking Vox, and I don't know, it was just big. There was more bottom end in it sometimes than the fucking whole song. He'd come in like on Death on Two Legs, the beginning, the first 3 notes of Death on Two Legs off of Night at the Opera. I know everybody knows it for Bohemian Rhapsody, but go listen to Death on Two Legs and listen to when he first, I don't even think he's playing the solo yet. He's trying to start the solo, and there's so much, like, you're like, what the fuck is going on in that room? Is there an elephant in the room? It's his fucking monstrosity of like him just, when he hit a note, it went through you. It just went through you, and it was so, everything that I tried to tell everybody, that it was emotional, and it was like, you'd make your head turn away. It was a physical element to it that made you just like, it was too much to handle, that, you know, and then, you know, I'm so sorry I can't think of specific solos, but it's just like, it was everything. I was never like that guy that, I can go by albums, but I was never a guy that went into one song and I was like, oh my God. I would dive into albums from top to bottom, and I'd live those albums. I'd have an affair with the album, you know, for months and months and months. And
what are the albums that really were your first big influences? You're an Aerosmith fan.
Well, I mean, look, to stay on Queen.
Okay.
People don't talk about this album. This is the album that connected me and Gary. Me and Gary would have never been in a band if it wasn't for this album, because we met in a club after it was closed with a friend of ours, both of us at this club. The club was closed, and it was a club owner, and he told me to come by for a drink. I was like 19, 20. I didn't know Gary was going to be there. I knew Gary was in this other band. And we literally started talking, and like, you know, we started, you know, talking about, this guy said, hey, let's do a Halloween. Let's get different musicians from different bands in Boston, but you get together and do your favorite band for Halloween. You can't be in the same band. I'm like, yeah, you go, you should do an Aerosmith. I'm like, oh, we do a Queen. And Gary was like, what the fuck you know about Queen? You don't know shit about Queen. I'm like, what the fuck do you know about fucking Queen? I was like, oh yeah? I'll fucking school you on Queen. He's like, no, I'll fucking school you on Queen. I'm like, okay. So we did this really, you know, Step Brothers movie type thing where it's like, you know, all right, at the same time on a count of 3, best fucking Queen album of all time. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Like 1, 2, 3. Queen 2 came out of our mouths, both of us. Nobody I've met since then or before that brings that. They'll bring up Night at the Opera, Day at the Races, Jazz, you know, all great albums. They're all fucking amazing. But Queen 2 was not a side A or side B. It was a black side and a white side. The black side started with Ogre Battle. Ogre Battle from all the way down.
The cover of Queen 2 is one of the most iconic Queen pictures.
They even recreated it in Bohemian Rhapsody video. Yeah,
so that
Mick Rock.
That picture,
Mick Rock.
So that picture is so.
It's so
when
iconic.
I think of Queen, I think of the cover of that album.
That's it. Let me see, how psychotic are we as Queen fans? Well, Mick Rock, who shot that, we hired him to shoot the shot in Porno Graffiti. And we were like, can you get something like that? And we're sitting down in shadows. We're not like this with our heads, but you know, it's the shot in there. But yeah, Queen 2, start Ogre Battle all the way from the top. Just Ogre Battle alone, they started all backwards. Roy Thomas Baker, the whole band plays it. The whole thing's going backwards, the riff.
Right.
And then somehow, I don't know, back in the 1900s when we didn't have the technology, all of a sudden, it meshes into going forward, and it's one of the heaviest riffs. It's insane. And then the vocals, the whole thing. That changed everything for me. That was it. And obviously for Gary too, but I sang the whole black side from top to bottom in a van. Brian May was stuck with me in a van in Japan, in Tokyo. I went to see him. Extreme was the time we went to see a show. I had a few drinks, and he was, you know how the van's like, you have to face each other, like you are with me. And I'm like, Queen 2. He's like, yeah, what about it? And we sang all the vocals from top, the black side, all the way to the end. And he was just looking at me like, who the fuck are you? Out of your fucking mind. How do you know this shit? I'm like, I'm telling you. We know it, we love it, and that was the album though. And Ogre Battle and Fairy Fellow's Master Stroke, Seven Seas of Rye, March of the Black Queen.
Oh yeah,
all that stuff on there was probably what really, you know, it's like, you know, you love all the other stuff and you listen to the other stuff, and it also emotionally and guitar wise messed you up. But when you're young, you know, when you get divergenized, if you will, by certain things, it would be like Van Halen 1, Queen 2. Aerosmith for me was Get Your Wings. That was it. I used to stare at the photo of them I had a blonde
What's
streak.
that Same Old Song and Dance?
Same Old Song and Dance.
Seasons of Wither.
Lordy at Thy, Season of Wither. Oh my God, Last Child. All like.
Oh my God.
Just so amazing. Amazing.
Dark album cover too.
Yeah, dark album cover. What is it? It's the same.
Right?
It was the Queen 2 where you just made
That's
me
right.
realize.
I'm looking at the album cover and it's like.
That's what it was, though. That was a big part of it. Remember what I just said about the Rise video?
I mean, the Van Halen one is a very dark album cover.
my God, they're all the same
Right?
cover. What are we, fucking Illuminati? What is happening here?
Queen 2,
Help, I'm getting
Van Halen
scared
1,
in
Get Your
Rick's
Wings.
basement.
Yeah, because the first
Same-
Aerosmith
same
album
lighting.
is a very
No,
bright
remember
album
it was a
cover.
bad album cover. Bright. It was like a kind of a bad Photoshop back in the day.
Right, exactly.
But it was, you're right. Get Your Wings was the one for me. Moody, Shadows.
Right.
Queen 2, Moody, Shadows, Van Halen 1, the cool fucking, the poses and the shadows and everything
Yeah.
else. But yeah, those were the albums that, and once, like I said, the mythology of it. Don't fucking, you cannot tell me that staring at that fucking cover whilst listening to Roth and looking at that photo of him bending back, or Edward, the fucking, and drums all blurred like they were on fire. You're not gonna tell me that didn't play a huge role in the mythology of why you love that band and why they changed your life. The visuals were so important.
What do
know?
you think about the fact that you didn't know anything about, like you didn't see the band other than the album cover when Van Halen came out, unless you saw them live? It's not like today where you can get on Instagram or YouTube or wherever you can see videos of the band. You didn't know anything about them except the album cover.
Yeah.
That's it. There's this whole
Mythology.
mythology about them.
I'm telling you, that's unfortunately or fortunately, that's what's missing right now. Because the more that technology moved forward and the pressures of social media and everything else, the more we're forced to give up ourselves. And unfortunately, not everything about us is rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to see Jimmy Page making pasta. I just don't.
Right.
I don't want to see that. I can't unsee that.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Why,
know.
is there a video of Jimmy Page making
I'm
pasta?
sure there is somewhere.
No, there's not.
Gotta be.
There is not a video of Jimmy Page making pasta.
Let's find it. Google that shit. Let's go. I know we can find it.
Jimmy Page would never make pasta on camera.
Okay, well, let me put it this
Well,
way.
we got to just draw
All
a
right,
line
maybe
there.
it was squid ink pasta because it was Jimmy Page. I don't know, but I'll say this. For instance, when we were on tour. This is the stuff I don't want to see. I don't mind seeing it, but I got to see it firsthand. But it would have changed the way I looked at the Who. So we're playing. Extreme's kind of breaking at this point in the '90s, early '90s, and we're doing. We're opening for, I want to say Bryan Adams. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. At Wembley Stadium. I'm like, oh my God, we're opening for Bryan Adams. Great. But all of a sudden, Roger Daltrey had come to see Extreme at a show that Brian, I mean, this is crazy. This is our heroes. I can't even believe any of these. I've never told this story. I'm saying it out loud, but we were playing at Wembley Arena. It was our first arena headlining tour. And Brian came up, he did Tie Your Mother Down with us, which we swapped guitars on stage at one point. Because I thought, oh my God, he's going to let me play his guitar. And it was the biggest nightmare I ever had because his guitar is unplayable. That's a whole other story. I went down in flames, but that's okay. But so Roger Daltrey comes to the show with his kids. His kids are Extreme fans. Great, we meet Roger Daltrey. Invites us the next day on a day off to like one of the fucking manor or some medieval fucking, wherever he lived up in the hills. Kind of where you live, right here, wherever the fuck this is. We get to it and we walk through this like, it was right out of like a great Zeppelin fucking, mythological fucking clip. It's like a castle, and we're on the rolling hills walking through. But then when we get to the backyard, I see something I don't want to see. I see Roger Daltrey in tight little shorts, and he's standing there, and he's hovering over a bunch of parts of a barbecue he's trying to put together that he can't work out. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. You don't.
Did you tell him that?
I said, you don't assemble your own. You're Roger Daltrey. I went to see you swinging something out here, a microphone. So,
Swinging the pork chops around or whatever.
And I was just like, dude, you don't have like somebody a knight, somebody to build this shit for you, or like like somebody with a sword. Give me something,
Someone with a sword.
Yeah, like you don't have a fire pit where we're gonna like have a pig spinning in the middle. Like, no, he's like, the guys are coming. I got a barbecue for them. Oh my God. So I think, that's the funny part, but almost in a way what we go back to is that the mythology of rock and roll, in anything.
It depends on people being that unattainable, or you not knowing anything about them?
Well, there's an excitement. You know what the problem is? I mean, think about it, Rick. So Van Halen 1 comes out. You got the album in your hands. You're looking at this. What is the first thing you're going to do after you hear the album 300,000 times? You're going to find out when they're coming to town.
Right.
And then what are you going to do the whole fucking time after you buy that ticket? And you just be, oh my God, we're going. And then you're in the crowd and you're like, I can't believe we're walking in. And then they come out and those fucking lights go down and the roar of the crowds and Van Halen, and you just, it's religion. It's something you will never forget in your whole life. What do we do now?
Well, wait.
What do we do now?
Hold on. And then the show's over and you go back and then you never see it. You don't know anything. It's not like there's an internet or anything.
But you don't need to know anything.
You don't need to know
What else do you need to
anything.
know? You know why? Because that was yours.
Right.
That was yours to keep. I was there in 19 fucking, you know what I mean? Like, how many times we hear those stories? I was there, I saw Zeppelin. You have it with you for the rest. It's a gift. It's something that nobody can take away. As far as you're concerned, you were the only one in the crowd and they were playing for you.
Right.
Period. They're your best friends. They know you. You know them. You know the lyrics. You know what they mean. So you think you do. You think you know how to play the song. You don't. But it's your experience, and they're the soundtrack to your fucking life, and that's it. How much more can you ask for than somebody than that? You want more? And people now is like, we got to give them more. We got to give them this. If I did, I'm not even going to tell you the other version of that. But the other version is like, okay, the album comes out. We watch it. Before it even came out, there was 12 teasers. There was this, there was that. You know. Then what happens? You're gonna go buy a ticket? No. You know what you're gonna do? They're opening in Houston. I'll just watch it tonight. And not only I'm gonna watch it tonight, and not even in person with the volume and the excitement and the anticipation. I'm gonna watch it through a shitty fucking iPhone fucking microphone with the fucking worst thing with distorted microphone, and I'm gonna go, I'm not feeling it. I wonder why.
When you go home back then, you don't hear anything else about them. You talk with your friends about this experience you had together.
Yeah.
And you wait for the next record to come out, or you wait for them to come back. Or you hopefully see them in a magazine or something, and just some still pictures.
Exactly.
You don't know anything about them.
And what you would do, you'd buy the magazine.
When the first time I heard Eddie Van Halen speak, I was like, that's what Eddie Van Halen's voice sounds
I was
like.
disappointed. Were you disappointed?
Yes.
I was like, I can't unhear that now.
Right.
I don't want him to sounded like somebody's grandmother from Long Island. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's go do this thing, and we're going to do this thing. I was just like, no. Now I know why Dave was a genius. Dave was like, everybody shut the fuck up and let me do the talking. Dave was like, let me beat him up.
My friends all said, have you heard Eddie Van Halen talk?
That was as big as hearing a Russian. It's like, have you heard Eddie talk? We're like, no, we don't want to hear Edward talk. But honestly, David, I remember back then, David was running that shit. David was like, let me be the fucking clown. Let me do the talking. Let me see, I'm going to go down there and fuck your girlfriend, dude. Let me do, and that's the mythology once again. The strengths of what we have. Don't talk, Edward. You know, but what I was going to say was like, Rise Solo. What do you think I was asked before the single came out by the record company, by management, and everybody else?
Do a play along.
Please go in your studio, give them a teaser, play the Rise Solo. That would have been end of it.
Right.
Done. I would have been dead in the water. Nobody would have given a fuck. This video would have come out. Why? Because, I could have played it even better probably by myself sitting there at the speed with a click track or just by myself and doing it. But they would have been like, nobody would have been like, have you heard the new Nuno solo? They would have been like, did you see this clip of Nuno? Oh, like everybody else sitting in their fucking chair in the studio playing the new solo? And
wow.
Think about that. Think about that. It would have changed the game. You think it would have got 2.5 million views at this point right now within a month and a half? Never. I'm telling you, it wouldn't have happened. That would have been it. It's not meant to be shared that way. If I'm in a band, it's meant to be in a band. If I'm doing that for a living, then it's meant to be doing that for a living. Trust me, I'm not being snobbish about anybody who I follow 20 of them, who's teaching me shit that I need to know. I'm not being snobbish about that. I'm just saying, I'm calculating and trying to analyze. I'm a Virgo, I get to do that. Why things, I always ask why? What's the why about this? Why am I doing this? Why are people responding? Why? Because that's what matters to me. And if I had done that, how many, all the isolated tracks that have come out over the last 10, 15 years, right? Mm-hmm. It's great for us because that shit's already been out. So we're hearing Queen things, we're hearing Def Leppard stuff, we're hearing, everything. Steely Dan, fucking Marvin Gaye. Because they gave the masters to a few interns in studios to save it. And everybody's like, boom, slide it over, take it home and put it out. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard solos even Edward's Beat It solo. I listen to it and it sounds human. And to me, it's still Edward. I'm not like talking down to it, but what a difference for me as to why I feel upset that those things were done, because they were never supposed to be heard that way. It's exciting and I'll listen to them all day, but I feel like it's a little unfair for the artist, because everything that you do in between your notes, you lay off because the drummer is doing things or the band's doing things, even noises, even pauses, even way. So when you hear it, you almost think you're hearing mistakes. You think you're hearing like, wow, that didn't thrill me that like it did when I heard it the first time, or I thought I was going to be excited to hear that solo or this solo. It loses a lot. I'll always keep going back to what we talked about earlier, which is it's the sum of its parts, right? The band is always going to be more powerful than just one band member. It's always going to be the case. I don't give a fuck how many times people were chanting Edward and while the lights were off. That's all they chanted. They never chanted Van Halen. It was always Edward, Edward, and it pissed Roth off. It pissed a lot of people off, because he was the star of it. I get it, but I'm telling you, you cannot have an Edward without a Roth. You can't.
Right.
You cannot throw that party without Roth.
You can't separate the guitar players and the singers from these bands. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry.
You can't. You're right. There's a 1-2 punch. There's a reason why that worked. And then the rhythm section is a whole other ballgame that you can't separate either. For the greatest bands, you pull out a Zeppelin. You got to fire one guy to Zeppelin. Who's it going to be? Uh-oh. Holy shit, like what the fuck?
No, it's
the
not
Who out of fucking Van Halen. Even the thing with Michael Anthony not being in the band as long as he hasn't been, I'm sorry, but just not the same. Right. No offense to Wolfie, it wasn't nothing to do with Wolfie. His dad wanted him in the band, he's playing the band, he's a fucking kid, he doesn't know what's going on. But it hurt me. It hurt me to see. And if the musician didn't want to be there, that's one thing. But first of all, Michael Anthony is one of the sweetest people on the fucking planet. He's got one of the best fucking background vocal voices. He could be a lead singer if he wanted, but his fucking DNA and his tone was part of that Van Halen sound as much as anything else in that band was.
Yep.
And the other thing that people forget is that, his limitations, and Eddie did start playing a bit of bass later, a little bit. I could tell, because when you start hearing vibrato on a bass, you're like, uh-oh. And I don't want to hear that, to be honest with you. I don't want to hear that.
Right.
I want the bass player to be limited to a bass player, because that's what...
So his limitations on the bass are what made Eddie's...
Are the genius.
That's right.
Genius. What do you want, fucking him out playing Edward? No. Yeah. Lay the foundation so this guy can shine. It's like a hockey team that has Gretzky. Not everybody's going to be Gretzky, but Gretzky cannot do it without people checking and passing and feeding him and that stuff. It works people need to know that chemistry is so fucking important for these bands, and any band, upcoming band, guitar players. That's why I always say, people, I don't really see myself as a guitar player. I see myself as, I'm in a band. I'm just a fucking guitar player in a band. When people talk about guitar heroes or stuff like that, I'm like, if you want to pull me out of it, okay, I get it. Celebrate it. It feels nice. It feels nice to be recognized, or even be sitting here with you. I wouldn't be sitting here with you if I wasn't a decent guitar player, and going over stuff. But at the same time,
I've actually sat here with bad guitar players.
Really?
I'm just kidding.
Wait, is this the version of it? We're doing bad guitar, top 10 worst guitar players in rock history. Rick Beato, but I wasn't told.
That's actually a good idea.
Oh my God, that's a good idea. I wasn't told. But honestly, after you did, you have a lot of influence on what's happening. And it used to be, we were all coming up. Being on a cover of Guitar Player magazine one day, are you fucking kidding me? Just to dream about that, to even be considered anything like that, like your heroes were. But what I was getting to, and a lot of these interviews that I'm doing for these covers, the same thing keeps coming up. They're like, yo, man, so you're the heir to the throne. You're the heir to the Van Halen throne. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Not even close. No one is the heir to Van Halen's throne. Nobody will sit in that fucking throne. It's gonna sit there like fucking Game of Thrones with his guitars sticking out, and his music forever.
Right.
He could have stopped after 1984, and he would still have the fucking throne.
Right.
It didn't even matter what he did. Maybe even after Van Halen 2, he could have stopped. Let's be serious, for real. Okay, Van Halen 1. Seriously, that's how good, how game changing the shot heard around the fucking world. Period. So I'm not gonna fucking get that throne. Steve Vai's not going to get the throne. Page is not even going to get that throne. Page has got his own throne. Everybody's building their own sort of thrones. Edward is fucking Edward. So don't even think that that's what I even think, or the fact that I threw on a Phase 90 on Rise after he passed away because I wanted to kind of just nod to him a little bit. That's different. the best that I'm doing is carrying that torch, you know, for my heroes like him and Edward, that maybe, you know, he's just, when Rise came out, he's just looking down and going, you know what, you done good, kid. That's about it, you know, you done good. Nobody, you know, nobody say that ever again. Nobody's taking that throne, especially not me. And I wouldn't even be sitting here with you if it wasn't for him. So you can't take somebody's throne who actually is a big part of your DNA and change your life that way.
That was very well put.
Hey, you know, it's the reality of it. And the irony, the weird thing is the day that you were doing Rise and you were talking about it, I was flashing back to my studio, and when I record anything, I've never had an assistant or anybody in the room, because I really, if somebody even says you want a cup of coffee while you're getting to that place, I told you I like to really get to that place, I'm like, what? And then I get out of it. So I really stay within the song, and I play within the song, and nobody knows that more than my band. They're like, when Nuno's fucking doing his shit, leave the studio, go jet ski and do whatever you got to do, but don't go in there. Your picks will come flying, like, you know, hit you in the neck and take you out. But here I am up in the studio, and this is 2019, and we were working on Rise. Gary had just flown in. He was going to cut vocals at 2 p.m. I said, give me like a couple hours. I want to attack the solo, because we finished all the rhythm stuff. I just want to fucking get into a zone. I go up there, and I'm playing. I'm just, you know, just jamming a little bit, just warming up a little bit, and then I start playing the solo. And I didn't know this until only a couple of weeks ago, that it was this day. So I'm up there doing this, and while I'm playing, my phone starts fucking vibrating like crazy. And I'm thinking, okay, something's wrong. I'm looking at the fucking Gary. He's like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, you know what the fuck I'm doing? You know what I'm doing? I'm recording it. Hits me up again. What are you doing? You got to come down. You got to come outside. I'm like, no. I'm flipping the phone over. Now he's calling me. Gary called me more in 30 seconds than he did in the last 20 years. Like, he's calling me like, what the fuck? I thought something was really wrong. So I'm like, fuck, I'm in the middle of this Rise solo. That fucking little fast part thing, I just did a take where it came out the first time. I'm like, oh my God, fuck you, Gary, I hate you. All right, I'm gonna go downstairs. I walk downstairs. It takes a while from, you know, to get down the street, open the door, and Edward was out there. And I was like, this is a good reason to come down. So first thing that happens is, it was literally like a flashback of when I first met him. He come over, big hug. You know, big kiss and a hug. He seemed to be in really good spirits. He's really, and then as we're hugging it out, a car comes around the corner, and it's very narrow roads up in the Hollywood Hills, comes around the corner, flying, fucking comes by us, starts skidding around the corner. The guy almost slams into a wall. His door flies open while the car's still running. I think the car was even like going backwards a little bit and going into he comes over, and he just goes, and he bows down. He couldn't believe he saw. It's Edward. He goes, Nuno, Edward, whatever. But it was Edward. I would do the same thing if I was flying by in the car. But French kid, just like, gets down, and he bows down, and he's like, goes back in his car and takes off. Asks for no photo, asks for nothing, doesn't even say hello, what are you guys up to? He's just like, and he gets back in his car and he takes off. So that was really bizarre. That's the bizarre part of the story. So me and Edward are laughing after. He's like, okay, great, back to earth. Edward went to lunch. He went to lunch with Gary.
Yeah.
The window's open, he's playing Wolfie's new album, showing us some new tracks. Proud Papa, you know, like showing the stuff, which it was really exciting. And then, you know, I asked him what he was up to, and he said, you know, we're thinking of, we're not thinking, so keep it between us. We're coming back, like the original cast with Michael. Wolfie even reached out and stuff, like, we're gonna go out the way we came in with the original band. I'm like, fucking how amazing is that? That's long overdue, right? And then he's like, so you're recording, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I'm up there recording. He's like, yeah, I want to hear some stuff, you know, and I'm like, what? I'm like, you here, wanting me to play? I went into that mode. I'm like, well, because, you know, it's not done. Like, he's like, you know, it's, I was like, no, what if can you come back and listen to some stuff? He's like, oh, okay, which was the stupidest thing I ever fucking did in my entire life for obvious reasons. And instead of him coming up and maybe playing some of the songs I had, or maybe listening to it wasn't meant to be at the end of the day. But we didn't realize how sick he was at the time, because he seemed so okay, you know? It was almost like the best I'd seen him in a long time. And he goes, all right, I'll come back. He goes, I'll come back. It was just, let me know when you guys are wrapping up. And he left. And he got in the car, he drove off, and we went back up. And I didn't realize, until I was telling that story to somebody, I didn't realize it was the Rise solo. You know, which was so, I don't know what the word is, like so obvious in a weird way. You know what I mean? That all of a sudden this song comes out, and it's getting the attention it's getting, and I don't know.
Is that the last time you saw him?
That was the last time I saw him, yeah. Because I remember when we were mastering and we finished different stuff we were working on, and we had gotten the news that he had passed. And Gary didn't know he was that leaning that way either. But yeah. But so what a gift, though. You know what I mean? Like having him come by and say hello and say, get Nuno down here, and the fact that he even wanted to hear the stuff. In a way, I'm kind of glad. What if he ripped it apart and said it was terrible? What if he would have said, that's the biggest hunk of shit, Bettencourt, I've ever heard in my life. You're fucking ripping me off. There, that's my shit. Take that Phase 90 and turn it off. What the fuck you think you are? Me? Go fuck yourself. But yeah, that was a great day. But speaking of the Phase 90, there was no Phase 90 on that solo. I was telling Rick, I was telling you in the car before I came in that I've never used a Phase 90 before. Not in the studio. I own like 3 or 4 of them, and I've played with them, but I've never used them in the studio live because the second you turn it on, it's like if you're already at 70% Van Halen, you might as well be
pushes you over the
edge. Everybody goes, "Come on, dude, really? I mean, come on, you're gonna wear the knickers now and the fucking stripe. You're gonna wear the raggedy, the raggedy hand off." But after he passed. The Rise solo was already done, by the way. People were saying, like, there was these things were saying, like, Bettencourt does an Extreme album, a tribute to Eddie Van Halen. I'm like, no, the album was done. The solos are pretty much there. But what I did do is, I didn't want to re-record the Rise solo because I was excited about it. Mm-hmm. But when he passed, I'm like, fuck. I literally went online and I tried to Google, like, a plugin that was a Phase 90 plugin to see if somebody nailed it. And there was nothing except for this one company. It came up really like bottom of the barrel, and it was this free plug-in, Phase 90. I don't know the exact name of it now. I'd like to give them a plug, but it was free. I downloaded that shit. I put it on there. It blew my mind, but I left it. I left it on there. You hear it in the song, subtly in there in the song, and that's probably what makes the tremolo picking sound even more like Eruption, right. And what makes even... But what's really interesting that I noticed? That was my little nod there, and I used it on 3 songs. I ended up using it on... And then I actually played one through for a song on the album called Other Side of the Rainbow, which is my favorite solo on the album. That's the one where Brian May was on the phone wanting his tone and everything back. But... And #Rebel, I used a Phase 90, but I think that was the only songs. But I've never used them before, and so I put it on there just as kind of a nod to him and a thank you,
So Ken is a massive fan of yours, and he's been he and I've been working together since 2000.
It's weird, dude. I was getting like a vibe from you, like I was annoying you or something.
Oh, good Lord. No,
I'm kidding.
He's been my engineer since 2000, and
that's cool, man. Wow.
Yeah, we've been working together forever.
That is
and he was
awesome.
like, I have a couple Nuno questions I want to ask, and I said that I want you to ask them.
But I know you. I discovered you through Play With Me, like the song Play With Me that was on the
Bill and Ted, yeah.
Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
That's how I heard of you, and that's how I heard of Extreme. So I picked up the album. I loved it. That led to Pornography, which I bought on the day it came out. It was amazing.
So you were the guy.
Yeah.
You were the one that bought it on that day. Because we didn't have any hits yet.
Number one. So, a few weeks ago, it was probably more than that. It was probably a few months ago that I'm watching social media, and then I see all these kids doing covers of your solo, of the Play With Me solo.
Wow.
And I know how humble you are. You've said it already, like, how your heroes influenced you, but you don't feel like a guitar hero or, an influence to other people. But man, I mean, it really is. And seeing all these people covering that song was really amazing. So I guess I was curious about how that came about. Is that something that you created as far as the contest? Or is that,
I mean, this is the perfect example of what we were talking about, right? It's like, engage. I think it had to do a lot with Stranger Things. Mm. Stranger Things, obviously, it was an opportunity that, as opposed to just doing any sort of challenge like a lot of people do, which I've never done, it was an opportunity to reach a bit of a younger audience and kind of, bring them into this world a little bit. Not that it had to be younger people, but I figured because of Stranger Things, and it was part of. Not only the song was on Stranger Things, it was when they came up with the Hellfire Club. Yeah. It was in the first episode of the new season, which I remembered. We have to always approve those things, and I remember approving it, but I forgot that you approve it so far in advance when they're shooting this stuff. So all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Yo, you're on the episode," and I'm like, "How?" And I remember they always send you a little synopsis of what it is. Your song's going to be used this long during a scene that does this, this, and that. So you have to approve all this stuff. Like, for instance, More Than Words was just on a show called The Boys.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know why you're laughing, because I'm sorry that you saw that, but I usually, with More Than Words, I'm with any song, I usually don't just go, much to my financial detriment. I'm sure Gary's like, yeah. I'm like, no. I'm like, it's got to be something cool. Come on, man. I don't want to be whore it out. But this was so fucking wild. I was reading it was like, More Than Words, because it was on Handmaid's Tale as well, but I was like, for The Boys, which is a sci-fi show. So here's the scene. Woman comes in the bedroom. More Than Words is playing in the background. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This makes sense. She gets into the bed, and then when they're about to kind of start having sex, he reaches over and he pulls out a live octopus, and then they have a three-way with an octopus. And I was like, hell yeah! Put More Than Words in that fucking scene. That was, I was like, what the fuck is happening here? I was like, that was crazy. But sorry about the play with me thing, but because it was the Hellfire thing, they said we thought, me and management and Primary Wave, they were like, man, you should do like a challenge, because Metallica had done something as well with the actual with the character and that played guitar in the series. Eddie, yeah. So it was kind of like a challenge to see, just a challenge, just a very, very humble sort of, and we got sent so many of them. But I have to tell you, man, that really, my managers, everybody's watching going like, oh, this guy sucks, whatever. And everybody that played, I just had the biggest smile on my face, because they were just playing my song, playing my solo, and everybody brought something different to it. And even the people that weren't, it's like I said, that weren't technically as like capable of doing it, didn't give a shit. They were still going for blood. And that actually touched me more than the guys who were like, I got this with one hand and I can flip it upside down, play it like whatever. And I was just like, but it was seeing some of the younger kids as well, discovering it. And I think that's really important, I think that's what's really important, what I love about what's happening with Rise as well, because of it, because I think I'm seeing a lot of reaction videos with parents with their kids as well, that are young guitarists and stuff, and they're watching it. And I've seen a lot of younger people trying to do the solos, and I think, look, the future of rock and roll, right? If AI is coming in, it's a perfect time for rock and roll to get a bit of a rebirth and take over. So I always tell every person that's in, when I do those seminars, those classes for that I did for Steve Vai, I open up with always saying, man, just so you know, you are the future of rock and roll. Everybody sitting in here, you are the future of rock and roll. I said, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Azores, Portugal. I came over when I was 4. Hudson, Mass. If a Portuguese kid from Hudson, Mass. can be on a stage with his heroes and Vai and those guys, the people that he admired, then anybody can. Trust me.
Do you speak Portuguese with your siblings?
Sim, falo português. Yeah, I'm the youngest of 10. Youngest of 10 kids, 6 boys, 4 girls. Everybody's a musician. And my first guitar hero ever, I always say, like, get your wings, Queen, all that stuff, but it was my brother. My brother Louis Bettencourt is one of the best.
How much older is Louis than you?
Louis is 10 years older than I am.
Okay.
So he was the guy that I was going into the bedroom after everybody left, and when they were listening to all, the Joe Cocker and the Beatles and Van Halen and Zeppelin, all stuff. I'd wait till everybody record collection. I'd go in and I'd sneak in and listen to everything. But he's still one of the most insane guitar players. He lives in the Azores, but he's that guy that, like, he's the one that shaped me the most, stylistically.
Wow.
Emotionally, and just his fire and everything else. He was the guy that got me started playing, and it wasn't even so much in lessons. It was just being around him and watching him, and he'd sneak me into clubs. My brother was a bass player, Robert. They were all in bands together. So I'd go into these clubs, and I'm not supposed to be at the Paradise and places that I'm like 14, 13, 12, and I'd just be like watching them perform. And it's once in a while now, you can Google some jams and stuff. We do some jams with family and things like that, and I'll be trading with him. And every time I'm doing that, my friends look at me and they're like, in disgust. They're like, you stole all that from him? They look at me like, you betrayed him? But yeah, they can see the influence. Man, he had a huge influence on me. So, you know, I always, sometimes, you know, we're always so talking about the bigs, the big guns, that, you know, I think everybody's got that guy in their life, that local guy. It doesn't have to be a brother, but a guy they saw in a club or played in high school or something, or in your neighborhood that you were like, what the fuck? That it's first made it possible for you to actually, wait, it's possible to be like one of those guys? So yeah, Louis was that guy for me, for sure. You always have these kind of moments, like, when I lived in Hudson, Massachusetts, I lived on Main Street. And it was downtown Main Street, and then you'd walk a little ways out.
Wait, where's Hudson? Is this south of Boston?
Yeah, no, it's you got Boston. It's west.
Okay, because
So you go west.
I lived in Boston for a few years.
Well, Boston, if you start heading out into, like, you know, Waltham.
I lived in Waltham.
Okay, so you got
actually.
Waltham, you got here, and Hudson's right here. So
Okay.
if you went to like Concord, and that thing, Acton, Hudson is next to that. Marlboro,
Okay.
Marlboro, you know Marlboro?
Yeah, of course.
On the way to Worcester, it's in between Boston and Worcester.
Okay.
So it took me everything to not say Worcester when I just said that out
Worcester.
loud. Yeah, it is, and I remember I'm like, you know, living in a 4-family kind of home, you know, and we were all on welfare. We, you know, I had food stamps, the whole thing, you know, big family. But I remember walking. There was Hudson Catholic High School was a block from me before you got downtown, and these little things really shape you. And I was walking to go downtown to hang with a friend of mine. At the Hudson Boys Club, play basketball. I was a big jock. And the doors to the gym that go onto Main Street to the Hudson Catholic were open. And music was coming out, rock music, live rock music, at like 7 p.m. It was literally like something out of a bad, like, Twisted Sister movie or something. And I'm just like, and I'm looking up, nobody else around, empty. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They must be sound checking or something, right? I go up these stairs, like, really intimate. It's a Catholic school. It's a, you know, very imposing looking facility. Doors are open, and I go in, and I'm walking in this open gym, and there's a stage that's kind of doubles as an auditorium and a gym. And there's a band, full cool-ass motherfucking rock band with Les Pauls and bell-bottoms and fucking jamming and singing. There's like 3 people in the crowd. And I think 2 of them work for the band. And it's what we used to call those roadie conventions. When we were on tour, we didn't have an audience, we'd ask the roadies to go out so they could pretend to be an audience so we could play for somebody. And there I was, like, just, I didn't know if it was real, and I was just watching this, you know, this kid with like a chachi bowl haircut watching this band play. And there's a song they play that really fucked me up. It was very Aerosmithy. It was called Passport to Pleasure. And I still remember the riff. It was and the vocals like everybody wants. It was so fucking cool. It was like Aerosmith. It was like I was watching Tyler. I didn't know what was going on. So then I go over and they finished. I just stayed there. I stayed there till they finished. There wasn't soundcheck. They were playing the gig. Nobody came. There was a little stand with 45s, Albatross. The song was on it, the one that I liked, with the B-side. They gave me one, signed it for me, and I was just like, I walked back home and I just fucking played this thing for like weeks. And I was like, and later,
wow.
I realized that it was, I stole it to play the riff of Decadence Dance. Not on purpose, but I'm talking 20 years later. Mm-hmm. Like that's how, and I even thanked them in interviews that, sorry, I owe Albatross, the band. I don't even know if they're together, and then I found out they might still be together, but they're all much older. But that really, remember what I said about seeing? It was the first concert I'd ever seen.
Right.
In an empty gym. It wasn't Madison Square Garden. It wasn't Led Zeppelin. It was Albatross. And I was just like...
Thank you, Albatross.
Thank you. You guys... No, but seriously, can you imagine? Like, those little moments really are important to recognize when you were young, you know. That and when a chick stuck her tongue down your throat for the first time. You know, whatever. That's another episode. Ever since the first album, we stopped doing demos for anything. I haven't done a demo for a song in 30-something years.
Right.
Because of...
No demoitis.
No demoitis, and it's never as good emotionally.
Right.
It's better technically, it's better performance-wise, it's perfect, it's everything else.
Yeah.
But I never can get back what we put down.
No.
And that happened with Wholehearted. It started with Wholehearted, which ended up being like, you know, top 5 single globally. And that was recorded. How? That was recorded. I didn't have anything to record. I was writing the song. I got my first 12-string ever, and you know, what does any human being do when they get excited when they get something they have to go to the toilet? So I went to the toilet and I took the 12 string. I know this is too much information, so I apologize for the kids at home. But I literally was sitting on the toilet and I just wanted to play this. I never owned a 12 string. I never owned a 12 string acoustic. I've always loved it in so many different ways, and Supertramp and everybody that played it, right? So all of a sudden, I'm sitting and I'm telling you, wrote the whole song on the toilet, 10 minutes, done. The ideas just came pouring out amongst other things.
Were your legs asleep by the end of it?
Yeah, they were a little bit. There was a big mark right here from the guitar. But I was like, I got out. I definitely made sure to take care of myself first. Then I got out excited. And I told Gary, I got this fucking tune. You got to. This is the melody. This is what it is. And we do it, and we wrote it like boom, 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 boom. But then I was like, oh fuck, I need to put this down. I have really bad short-term memory. Everything is voice notes and fucking. But then it was micro cassettes. Like I had fucking tons of them carrying around, and you had to go find ideas. It's horrible. But I can't remember. Like if me and you jammed right now, and I said to you, man, that's an incredible riff. You're like, cool, yeah. 5 minutes later, you asked me to play it or sing it. Gone. I have no short-term memory. So I was like, had my little 4-track recorder, and I needed a microphone for the 12 string. So Gary had this horrible Burger King headset mic, you know, the Janet Jackson model, right? So I'm like, it's hanging there. So you got duct tape. I duct tape it to my knee. Put the mic there. Record the whole song. Record it. Drum machine, boom, with the kick drum, just kick drum. I put a tambourine in there. I'm like, great, because I was thinking about Zep 3 with. I was like, oh, let's Zep 3. Let's do this. Took the whole groove out of Zep 3. I actually got to tell Paige I apologize for that, but I did it. Threw it down to the bass. We did some harmonies. I couldn't do Pat's harmony too high, so I pitched it down so I could do it, and I hit the harmony. Just a demo. I'm telling you, the thing took an hour maybe. Here we are now. We're in LA recording Porn Graffiti, and 2-inch tape, fucking $2,000 a day studio. You know, let's spend $250,000 making an album. We're cutting it and we're doing it, and I'm just like, what the fuck? It's got no energy. It's got no mojo. It's got nothing. And everybody's like, oh, it sounds great. It sounds amazing. I'm like, so I fucking called home and asked somebody ship me the fucking machine. Mm-hmm. And then when nobody was in the studio, I just transferred all the tracks to 2-inch.
Wait a minute. So that guitar, you're telling me the 12-string part on that was
Headset
recorded
mic.
with the headset mic taped to your knee.
Taped to my knee. The original. I swear to God on my children.
No way.
On my children's
That's
life.
amazing.
All of it is the demo. All of it. And it just goes to show you, it was a hit.
Right?
And it doesn't matter how good, if it's chocolate-covered shit, it's chocolate-covered shit. The song's still got to be good, no matter how poorly it sounds. But if you go back and listen to it now, it's not the greatest sounding song ever recorded. But I didn't care. Even the 12 strings kind of like it's a little brittle. It's not like the beefy stuff that I usually do. But I'm like, and I had the new 12 string. I mean, the recording was so perfect and so amazing. But it just goes to show you that. And then when I put it onto the 2-inch, the power of suggestion. Everybody, okay, look, check this out. And everybody was like, oh fuck yeah, this is way better.
Now, you didn't use Gary's vocal from that though, right? From the demo, or did you? Did you?
Maybe.
Oh my God.
My point being is that we stopped making demos because every time we recorded it the first time, so on Porn Graffiti, the rest of the songs, everything was recorded. When the label gave us pre-production money to go in and write songs, we were like, fuck it. We went into a studio, we took that money, and we recorded the album. So all of Porn Graffiti, Get the Funk Out, Decadence Dance, all that stuff, we recorded it with Bob St. John, our engineer, no producer, and we did it. And then we sent it to the label, and they were like, wow, this is amazing. Who did this? I'm like, well, we did. You know, and Nuno's like, oh, okay, well, we got to get a producer. Like, they loved it until they said it was me.
I know, that's all. Why did they always do that? Because they had to have some say in the record, right?
They have to have some say in the record, and they're also going to go, we're not about to give a fucking 20, 21-year-old, even though it sounds great, production, like, be the producer to deliver this.
Right.
From top to bottom, everything else. But I had been doing that my whole life. I just didn't know I was a producer. It's just what you did, right? So they said, we got to get a producer. I said, okay, well, I do like the way Michael Wagner makes things sound. At the time, he had some cool guitar sounds with Skid Row and some things. I was listening more selfishly. And even the drum sounds, I thought it was cool, whatever. The reason we ended up working with Michael, who is super talented, and he knows the story, so I don't want to, he's probably going to hear this, but when the head of A&R called me back, and he goes, we spoke to Michael, played him the demos. And I go, what do you think? He goes, sounds amazing, but what do they need me for? And I went, hire him.
Right.
Because to me, a good producer, and you are a producer, you already know this, a good producer is a producer that knows when he has to step in and do 80% of everything to get things across the line, to help people play their parts, do this, sometimes even maybe play something, do whatever it's got to take as long. It's all good. And sometimes the best producers is just to get the fuck out of the way and let it fucking happen and do 1% or maybe just mix it. And Michael just says, all I want to do is mix this with you. I'm like, I love you. And we went out to the big studio and he pretended to come in every day and then he'd leave. And then he'd leave us to he'd let the inmates run the asylum and he came in and the shit was done. That was it. And he mixed and with me at his side and it worked, you know.
There you go.
And but I think, you know, it's did you ever talk to Butch Vig?
I did.
Yeah. Did he? I think it was. I'm not sure if it was because I saw recently an ad for it. I didn't get to watch it yet, but I thought I heard him say, and maybe you can double down on this if he did talk to you about this. But it was a long time ago that I saw a quick snippet of him on MTV or something when he said that he was going to produce the Nirvana album, and they sent him something like on a cassette.
Yeah, you said they sent the demos of all the songs on a cassette, just distorting a cassette.
Yeah, and he was panicked because he said, how the fuck am I going to capture that? In, you know, like it's almost like that producer going like, instead of the producer that pisses on everything because he wants to like make it his, that's a certain kind of producer. But the good producers are the ones that can adapt from artist to artist and go like,
you know, Glyn Johns, when Pete Townsend sent him the demo to Baba O'Reilly, he's like, how can I improve on this? Which ended up being a lot of what they actually did re-record it, I believe, but he said it sounded so good that
it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you got Pete Townsend going into a studio and doing shit like that. It's like, to me, the word that comes to mind, and maybe you agree, is a producer's job is to protect it. It's just to protect it. It's like, it's how many times I have to tell an artist, it's like, this is great. Vocalists that want to recut this shit over and over and over, and I'm just like, you can record it all you want, but that first or second take you did, or whatever is here, like, you might have cracked, you might have done this, but the emotion of it, and even with the Extreme album with Gary's vocal this time around, I really pushed him and wanted him to, like, I feel, for me, and this is just coming from the Extreme side, that this is Gary's album for me. This is the best he's ever sung. This is the most emotional he's ever sung. Different characters, different voices, different tones, and we pushed a lot, lyrically and melodically and performance-wise. Because we're at the point now where it's like, okay, Rise, here we go. Does a take with the lyrics and like, you nailed it, it's perfect. But I don't believe you. Like, let's go back to that place now where those lyrics are and what they mean, and let's fucking go. Let's go in and, like, you know, and I think there's an element that if you're not kind of hating your producer a lot by the end of the project, then he isn't doing his job, in a way. You know what I mean? I think a producer has to pull things out of people that they kind of don't want to deal with, you know? That's a bridge, yeah. You know what's crazy? I wasn't until my first concert I ever saw was Supertramp.
okay,
It was Supertramp, the Breakfast in America tour, which I was obsessed with that album.
which has those kind of chords in.
How about, yeah, and so
give a little bit, right?
It wasn't, yeah. So it was give a little bit, and it wasn't until the end. So Whole Heart is out.
Yeah.
You know, Bridge is out. I thought that was the whole song. Then somebody says to me, and I was in Europe, and when they go like, man, you're really influenced by Supertramp. You realize that on Wholehearted, you're playing a part right off of Give a Little Bit. And I'm like, I was kind of offended. I was like, what the fuck? I was eating a Snickers bar, so I almost threw it at the guy. I'm like, what do you mean? You tell me I stole it? He goes, oh yeah. I'm like, where? He goes, play your bridge. Play your pre-chorus. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, no, stop singing now. And he goes, Isn't that the ending of the actual song? Talking about me. And you go. So there's an ending of the Supertramp that goes,
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's the ending of the song.
Literally end.
Literally, I
Yeah.
stole the ending of the fucking song, and I had no idea. I mean, talk about how something influences you, and I'm like playing it, because I did it in A as well, the same sort of phrasing, it was just a part to me.
Yeah.
But he goes, no, if you literally play it, you played the song, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, I didn't get sued, but yeah. But yeah, this was recorded, this was just literally, like, if you want, we can go into the toilet, I can show you exactly what happened. We'll revisit the whole thing. We'll recreate the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'll go eat some.
We got a mic
prunes.
we can probably tape to you that we won't use again.
Yeah, use again. But that's what it was. It was like, excited for some reason. One of the things that are really magical.
How do you play that on the toilet though? That's that grooving thing.
Let's see. Let's try to figure it out. Well, you definitely can't do this, and you don't. But I think the only problem I had, I think I played it different because I couldn't get to the wall because it had everything in the toilet paper, so I had to kind of play forward. Which, but sometimes, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but this is a rare occasion, that shit like this happens. I mean, actual, not that shit, but like this shit. I'm fucking mad. I'm like, this is not good. Toilet, anything I say sounds like I'm taking a shit. When this happens, when you get a new instrument, or I don't know, you sit on the piano or something, you pick up somebody's guitar, you start. It happened with More Than Words, and it happened with this one. Oh wow, 2 hits, ironically enough, where you actually, the first thing you play is the thing that you're creating, and you don't stop.
Right.
It's like as if, that's why me and Gary wrote a song years ago called "The Music Isn't Mine," meaning like we feel like when that happens. Other than stealing Supertramp, but that all these things just happen as if they were imprinted. What I mean by that is not just the riff. Like I didn't just go like, oh, I'm just jamming like on a blues thing going. So you're playing that, but then you literally go and you finish and you go. It all finishes each one, and I'm telling you, that all came in order. In between a few toilet wipes, yes, that all came. Sorry, I can't get out of this.
So more than words, then you wrote that.
I wrote that in the shower. No.
The first time that you were playing a particular guitar. Or something.
It was an acoustic. I was at Gary's place. I'll call it Gary's
Don't
place.
tell me that that's the demo too. No,
we never did a demo.
Okay, good. What guitar was that you played on?
I had an acoustic. It was an acoustic. It was obviously pre-Washburn. We actually wrote that during the first album, not Porno, and but nobody wanted to put it on the first album. Gary's mom's place. She lived upstairs. The boys had an apartment downstairs. I used to sleep on the couch. And I used to just like fucking throw like cassette ideas off my 4-track into Gary's room. So I went out in the porch, and I was sitting out at Malden, Massachusetts. And 12th Street, never played on 12th Street. More Than Words at 12th Street.
Go grab
remix.
grab my Gibson in there. You gotta play my good Gibson here. See, only you can rip on a 12-string, Here, this is my 57 Gibson that I've had for about 30 years.
Oh my, 57?
This is my favorite guitar that...
oh my God. Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, this is like the only guitar I would save if I needed to pick one guitar in here.
Wow, it's beautiful. No wonder. I just got lost playing that. It sounds so good. Wow, so fucking cool. But yeah, it was honestly, the interesting thing about More Than Words that I didn't realize, and this has to be from a drummer perspective, is after More Than Words was a hit, I would run into like I'd be in a studio somewhere and there'd be R&B sessions and stuff going on. People come over like a producer, go, hey man, yo, that More Than Words joint you did, like, you know, we're taking that style from it. Like what style? He goes, you know, the tapping thing that you do. And I'm like, what tap? I tap? Yeah, just that. I didn't know that back then that it wasn't like a thing that people... So all this, remember I was saying the tambourine on the right hand? This is all I'm hearing the whole time. But when a lot of people play, they go, see the difference?
That doesn't work.
Now instead of the sexiness of, so what I mean by dancing and moving, like it's not, when you get physical, whatever you're doing. But this was like one of those moments out on the porch at Gary's house. It was just like no traffic, 11 a.m., just kind of waking up and just, I don't even know that I've ever done that before. Like consciously. It was just like, I would think it was just like sitting out there and just feeling this thing just doing. And the reason, and the reason that the label didn't want to put this out as a hit, or as a single, should I say, or think it wasn't a hit, is because it had no chorus. If you listen to the song, all the ballads back then were power ballads. There was not one acoustic song out at the time. We're talking 89, 90. All the big ballads, whether it was Def Leppard or whatever was going on, you know, all the 80s stuff was like big fucking drums and like, I wanna know what love is, all massive shit. To do an acoustic, to sit on a stool, like circa 1975 or James Taylor-ish, they were like, no, we there's no way to put this. Nobody wanted to release it as a single. Labels like, there's no format to play it in. Nobody's gonna play it. Where are we gonna put this in between what? Whoever was out at the time, or even, you know, what was happening with, it was the album that come out on A&M as well was, it had Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, Temple of the Dog. That project was out. And everybody's like, that's all people want to hear. They want to hear the heavy shit. And it's like, you know, the word is, man, 90s, it's leaning, you know, the Seattle sound that came out of there was kind of cultivated and discovered and brought to the mainstream by Brian Huttenhauer, who was at A&M. He's the one that pulled the Temple of the Dog album, and they had Soundgarden there. We were on there, and Soundgarden was there.
That's right.
So as Soundgarden's like doing the really heavy fucking, you know, Black Sabbath driven stuff, I'm like... And they're like, Nuno, man, come on, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm sitting on the porch writing a song. I'm a Beatles fan, I'm a, you know, James Taylor's fan, you know, it's like, you know, I don't even know what this is to me, you know, what I'm doing here, but, so we were on tour, and it was us with Alice in Chains. And once again, that's what was happening. And I think for $2 you could see Extreme and Alice in Chains. It played at empty rooms all over the United States. We were all started touring together. And it's, you know, that thing that I told you about, about the performance, about an audience coming to see you play and escaping. You know where that came, it was crystallized and it came to fruition was with Alice in Chains. When I used to watch Lane Staley on stage, we opened the first opening night. It was in Iguanas in Tijuana, over the border into Mexico. That was where you opened the tour. I'm like, great. And I remember seeing them at soundcheck, and I came out to him for the first time. Nobody knew who they were, Alice in Chains, and seeing Jerry play, and they had a really different sound. And Lane was just like eyes closed, standing there singing his shit. And I was just like, okay. And I remember some of my band members would be like, yeah, they're kind of boring, you know, like they whatever. And then came out to do the show. He was the same way. He was like, yeah, but this is soundcheck. Came out, closed his eyes. He was like, and he's doing this thing. And I couldn't stop watching him. I had chills watching him. And it taught me that he was so compelling, and it wasn't, you didn't have to run around. It was like he was wearing concrete shoes most of the time. But it made me think, like, where the fuck is he going? And the audience, he was taking the audience with him, not worrying about what they fucking cared about him or trying to impress them. They did what they did, and that taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about, like, man, you just gotta be you, be yourself, do whatever it is you do, whether you stand there the whole night or whether you run around doesn't make you a better performer. You know, or whether you're showing off. It matters that your culture and where you are and your personality, if you fucking live and die by that, he would taken them away. And that stayed up here with me, and that affected me, and that's why a lot of people say, like, man, when I watch you play live, you don't even seem to, like, you know, you don't stop, you don't really, there's not like, you're there, but you're in a world, you're in your own world. And I'm like, I don't even remember the set. By the end of the set, I'm just like, was saying goodnight, I'm like, did that happen? Like, I was like, I always all in, go and let the music fucking, you know, take you there. But you had a little thing you did recently talking about current hits and what's going on. And in LA, there's a big, you know, there's big writing sessions that go on in LA. I get asked to be a part of them all the time. The problem with a writing session is they're going in to write hits.
Right.
You can't write.
That's all they write, because they don't care about anything else. It's the only thing that makes money.
But you can't write hits.
No.
You don't go in to write hits. Real evergreen classic songs are never written, set down as writing hits. You write songs, and you write beautiful songs and great songs, and you hope. Wouldn't it be great if enough people connected that it was a hit, or that they loved it or connected with it? But if they would just stop writing hits and write songs, we would have so much more incredible music.
True.
And we would have the same amount of hits. Somebody's got to fill the top 40 spot, right? So it's not going to go away.
So, Nuno, how many other artists didn't go to their label president
That's the moral of the story, isn't it?
and do that? Think about that.
That's the story. So if I don't get on the plane, or if we don't push for that, like, what happens? And, you know, until this day, I do interviews now, and they still go, hey, you know, we know that Extreme's a rock band, and 80% of every album, 90% is rock or rock funk or whatever it is. And we do our More Than Words, we do our When I First Kissed You that I was playing the piano that he noticed, and whatever it is. We always have those because we're nothing like Queen, but we're philosophically like Queen in the sense that we do whatever the fuck we want. We don't fucking go on like, you know, wow, the last album sounded like this, so we need to do this, or rewrite a More Than Words, or do whatever. More Than Words was written on the porch and one on a toilet, and that's the story, and that's it. And the other ones will be written in a car, on a plane, or wherever it is. And if it's a hit, fucking great. If it isn't, all I give a fuck about is I put my head on the pillow at night and I've released what I'm proud of and what I love. That's what's exciting about Rise. Rise is just a bonus. When somebody loves a song, isn't it great? Like, people going, you guys did it, the marketing, the videos. I'm like, marketing? I go, we directed those videos because I just wanted to capture the band, like the tone of the song. Marketing? I'm not marketing anything. It's just do what you love, build it, and they will come. And if they don't, it's okay too. Because there's nothing worse than going to sleep at night thinking like, I didn't even do what I wanted to do. Or I did something that I didn't want to do and I'm embarrassed by it. I don't give a fuck about that. I want to live my life knowing that, like, every album we put out or every song, you know, not everybody's gonna love it. Some people are gonna hate it. I was in a fucking Steve Vai thing where the guy in the back was like, I have a question. I really love, like, I loved your music on Porno, but God, I hate that you used horns. It's so bad. Why did you use horns? Like on Get the Funk. And I'm like, I love you for saying that. Because you don't like horns. But he loved, you know, like horn section, right? Not these horns, but you know, but it's like, it's not for everybody. But the second you try to please everybody, Rise came out, everybody's like, genius, modern. It's fucking genius, man. It doesn't really sound like Extreme, really. You know, God, it's very metallic. And I go, it is? It is? Yeah, great idea. We're modern, we'll cross over. And no idea, we're in a fucking bubble. You know, it's like you said, you fight for the things, you're in your small little world. And Pete Townsend was on the radio once. I was in Massachusetts, and they were coming back for their third farewell tour, whatever it was. And the DJ says to Pete Townsend, it was 2 a.m, I was driving home from the studio, and he said to Pete, so, man, I had a great interview with Daltrey, and Daltrey said, like, you know, you guys are coming back, and for the fans, you know, you're going to do this tour for the fans, and there's a couple of new tunes for the fans. And Pete Townsend goes, are you fucking kidding me? He goes, we do nothing for the fans. He's lying. Any artist who tells you they do anything for the fans or for anything other than themselves is a liar. And not only that, if that isn't true, then I don't want to hear that artist. Wow. And at first when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this guy's just angry and he's bitter and whatever, and it sounds mean. And it fucking hit me so hard a little bit later. Like, I saw The Matrix, I was like, he's so right. The fans don't want you to do what they want. They coming to see you. They're coming to hear what you got coming, to expect the unexpected. They don't want you to just to do something phony or do something for them. They're coming to leave their shitty jobs and their reality to escape with you. You're the soundtrack. And he said it. He nailed it. He's like, we're in our own fucking bubble, and we're selfish, and we're proud of what we're doing, and we can't wait to share it with you. That's when we're ready. Somebody said, why did it take so long to do an album in 15 years? You think I took 15 years to make a fucking album? I had 4 albums done already. I had an album done in 2012, 2014, and 2018. But that little voice in me that goes back to the kid walking down the street to see Albatross, where if you don't pick up a guitar and you play something and you go like, oh fuck, and you get this butterflies, something that you created where you're like, you know it's something when you call your brother and you say, hey, can I play you something? Can you check this out? And then maybe your band, your little band, the garage band, like, what do you guys think? When you get that brave to show somebody a song you wrote or a solo, and it doesn't change now at 57 in a month. It doesn't change. It's the same little feeling that if I have the balls to put myself on the line to show the people that really going to tell me the truth, that I'm actually proud to show them and get kind of like giggly. And like the fact that I called and I said, hey, Morello, hey, Vi, hey, you guys want to come down to the studio down Sunset? I want to play something. Me. I haven't played something in I don't know how long. Like they know me. I wouldn't do this. Like, I want to play some stuff. If I'm that ready to show 3 or 4 people like that, then I'm ready to show 3 or 4 million people. But that feeling of that little giddiness of that 12-year-old that maybe thinks he created a cool solo or a cool piece like Midnight Express, that feeling that you get, that really innocent feeling. It wasn't a hit. It wasn't because I wanted to change the world. It wasn't because I was doing it for the fans. It was just like, I'm excited. I'm excited to share this with you. I'm excited to show you a song, show you a video. I even emailed you, remember? It's like, I just want to show you the album. For me to do that, it takes a lot. I haven't done it in 15 years. And that's, I told Gary a long time ago when we were fucking kids, I said, I never want to release anything that I'm not just excited about and turned on. Because if we're not turned on, they're not going to be turned on. They're going to see through the bullshit, which goes full circle to where we started, the Rise video. They see that we're excited. They see that we're all in. They're going to want to hang with us. I want to be a part of that. I want to watch that. I love this. It makes me feel good. And I think if a band is authentically that way, I don't give a fuck what genre it is. I've had people tell me that fucking CeCe DeVille, they think he's the worst guitar player of all time. I call bullshit, because CeCe DeVille is the best guitar player Poison ever had. Because CeCe DeVille has his lane, and his fucking lane is, I've watched that show, and they throw a fucking party and a half. I'd rather watch them more than some of the most talented fucking bands in the world that everybody thinks is the greatest musicians ever. I fucking had a ball. I watched it. He loves it. He's all in. He plays what he plays, and that's that. I get more out of that than somebody fucking, I don't know, playing circles around him and saying that he's a joke. He's not a joke. Music, it doesn't matter how limited. Because if that's the case, then AC/DC suck, really, at the end of the day. If this is about playing and this is about how good you are technically and everything, then fucking Angus Young should have retired a long time. And AC/DC plays the same first position of a... all open chords. It's the first chord.
And it's so good.
And it's so fucking good. It's brilliant. It's genius. They are the quintessential, the best. They are arena rock, the first and last ever of all fucking time. Why? Because in arenas, it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be ga da da, ga da da, because that's how big it sounds in the arena. They're one of the greatest bands of all time. But why are people so fucking still stuck on like making fun of artists and making fun of guitar playing people like it's an Olympics? It's not a fucking Olympics. You have to really appreciate the culture that somebody's in. It's okay if you don't like it. I don't mind if somebody says, I don't like Poison. I don't like CeCe DeVille's guitar playing. But when I see somebody say, like, he's the fucking worst guitar player, is this whatever, it really hurts me. It hurts me. And I can understand, we can sit here and take it apart and say, like, okay, maybe he's not the most, he doesn't have the prowess and everything else, but they're missing everything else about that band and about what it was. It's culture. There's a reason why they're doing it fucking arenas. There's a reason why they have hits. They're connecting with somebody. Yeah. And that's all we hope for. So when somebody asks me, even till this day with More Than Words, they say, hey, was More Than Words a blessing or a curse for you guys? And I go, why? And they have a good explanation. I go, well, you guys, as fans sometimes, or as journalists, we feel that you guys were known for something you weren't, and something that they thought you were. Was it a curse for you to have that, break you or not? And I'm like, let me see. More Than Words is a hit, on one hand. More people listen to the rest of our stuff. We get to do more albums, tour the world, be all over the radio, more singles, have a career, maybe have more hits, keep going. More Than Words isn't a hit, and I'm working at Burger King.
Nuno, that's an amazing, that's really an amazing story.
You know what it is? It's belief. You know, I was on the radio at KLOS the other day, and it came out of my mouth, and sometimes I surprise myself even till this day. You always learn more about what you're doing, who you are as you go. You're never done learning, and you're never done doing decent guitar solos, apparently. You're never done writing songs. It's ageless. Rock and roll is a fountain of youth, and it should be that way. But I was saying it out loud, and I said that I believe. That's it. It's just, you believe. What are you doing here? What are you doing in this fucking room, really, at the end of the day? What, are you fooling everybody? Are you doing it because it's for the money? You're doing it as a job? People can see through that shit. They can see the love and the passion that you have, and that's why they watch you. That's why you have the viewer. That's why I want to be here. I don't want to fucking be here. I reached out to you, by the way, everybody at home. He didn't reach out to me. The first time you know why I reached out to this prick right here for the first time? Is I was following him, and I was, all this stuff he was doing was great, but I literally DM'd him asking him, all these little fucking, what do you call it? 1 minute lessons. What do you call them? The quick lessons. Quick lessons. So every time a quick lesson came up, I was like, yeah, that's great. But do you hear what you're playing? Do you hear that there's a song there? Like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't throw that away. Like, I want to write that song with you. Like, what do you do? All these amazing chord progressions and stuff. And didn't I ask you, go, do you write? What do you do with those? You throw them in the trash? Like, what are you doing? I want to write songs. Like, because I'm always after the next greatest song. And you're like spitting them out like fucking nothing, you asshole. Like, oh yeah, this is just a quick little lesson. I'm like, no, but seriously, but you encompass, this is your culture. I came into your world. This is your culture. This is your home. This is your studio. This is not 2023. This is you going back to when you were a kid. You're a kid sitting in that chair. For real.
Always.
And that's what rock and roll is. Rock and roll is people can make fun of Bon Jovi having trouble with his voice live. People can make fun of even McCartney right now. McCartney's what? 304 years old, doing a 4-hour show, and somebody goes, yeah, I saw him, his voice wasn't quite well. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
He's 82.
The guy's 82, and he's still doing a 3-hour show, and we're still treating it like an Olympics? He doesn't have enough catalog to be dismissed or to not have a good, oh my God, like, we have to stop this. We have to start supporting the people that are still doing it, and the rock and roll that's still going on, people like yourself and stuff like that are passionate about what they're doing. And it's at the end of the day, it's just like when somebody says to me like about the throne of Eddie's thing, I say, look, when I do this, I may sound humble most of the time because I am, but if you really want to test me, and if somebody says you suck, I'm like, I didn't do the Rise solo, or I don't go in and play this stuff to hope that Eddie likes me. I go to take him down. I want to take the motherfucker down. I want to take Brian down. I want to take fucking Page down. I want to take them all down. I have to believe that. I have to believe that to be able for you to have me in this fucking chair. You know what I mean? It's like if I didn't believe that, I'm not doing it. I hope he likes it and whatever it is. I wanted to come up in that room so I can go, what do you think, motherfucker? Come on. What do you think, huh? Come on. Of course.
I think it's pretty good, Nuno.
Yeah, but I respect him. I respect him, and he's a god to me. But if we don't believe that we can actually go after our idols, then what the fuck are we doing here?
Right. What
the fuck are we doing here song-wise? If I don't think I can ever write who the fuck is going to believe they can write another song after the Beatles, any Beatles record? It's impossible. But when you did write More Than Words, and you do end up having 3 days with Paul McCartney because you're doing the Grammys with him, and he does bring it up to you quietly and peacefully, I mean, what else is there? You're doing it because, when I was doing the Grammys with him and 4 or 5 seconds of that song, I get to do 3 rehearsal days with him just for that song. I had so many amazing conversations with Paul, And we even, for a second, I think I told you the story, wrote a song together for a split second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, and you know, if there's anybody to close this on, it's the great Paul McCartney, because that's where it all begins, right? But it was, I got called in. I wasn't doing the Rihanna tours anymore. She had done a tour, and I was just finishing the last show with Extreme in Detroit, blizzard on the runway, and Jay Brown, manager, calls me and goes, "Hey, we want you to come back and do something with us with Rihanna." I'm like, dude, it's like the mafia though. They call you back in. Like, I'm like, no man, I'm out. I'm back to rock and roll. I love it. I love Ree. I love all that stuff. But he goes, okay, it's a shame, because it's like I wanted you, because we're doing a secret Grammy performance. Nobody knows we're performing. It's not advertised, but it's with Rihanna, Kanye, and then he said Paul McCartney. And I'm like, what did you just say? No offense to Kanye, love him. No offense to Ree, of course, love her to death, and she's an incredible artist. But did you just say Paul McCartney? How did my schedule just open up? I don't know. I mean, it's incredible. So can you be in LA in 2 weeks? And I was like, of course. And
Be in LA 2 hours.
I will hijack this fucking plane. Fuck you, TSA. I will hijack this fucking plane right now and go straight there. And all I could think about, of course, can you imagine now? He's like, okay, well, rehearsal start, whatever. And I'm like, so 3 days of rehearsal? I didn't even, performing the Grammys was whatever. I was like, 3 days with McCartney? So I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be like. Could he be an asshole? Could he be a good, whatever? And you can't tell anybody. It's like, you know, have to sign shit because it's not announced, all this shit. Show up at rehearsal. I'm there early, of course, because it's Paul McCartney Day, National Paul McCartney Day for me. And I go up and I'm setting up my stuff, and nobody's there yet, no of the other artists. And walks Paul early, like 20 minutes after me. And I got my guitar in my hand, I got my N4, and I'm just plugging my amp. And he comes in and he's like, he's just walking into the guy mopping the floor is like, hey, how you doing, man? What's going on, man? Nice to see you, whatever. He goes, comes right over to me, gives me a big, how you doing, brother? What's going on? He goes, what, second thing out of his mouth, let's play. Let's play. And I'm like, you're fucking 82 and you got more drive. He's like a teenager walking into a garage going, let's jam. That's all he wanted to do. Who the fuck wants, me and you can't pick up a guitar for 6 months. And this dude is like, let's play, man. I couldn't believe it. And he's like, grabs his guitar and he's like, he comes in with just the driver and whatever it is. Kanye comes in later with 13 people. You know, everybody walks in with their entourage, and Paul's like, I don't give a fuck. And he's Paul, right? I'm sure his driver's got a strap, I would imagine, but still. He's coming in, let's play. And he's just like, starts playing, left, you know, it's crazy. And he's right next to me and right here. And he's like, so, how does the song go? I go, you wrote the fucking thing. He goes, well, I thought I wrote it. It was him, but they sampled it, resampled it, shifted it, looped it, did whatever. It was just something that he had, that 4 or 5 seconds, and that song that he did. He goes, so I'm now showing Paul how to play a song, which was already trippy enough. And I'm just saying to myself, stay in there, just hang in there. Paul McCartney's right in front of you right now. Just pretend it's not Paul McCartney. Just pretend you're not supposed to be here, I know, but just, you know. And he was so wonderful, and he was so giving, and he was just, he made me look old. He made me feel old. He was like a child. That's why he's doing it. It's what I just said to you, the child in you. The child in you has to be in there, because that's why we played music in the first place. If we lose that, and this dude has not, he's gone even further back, I think it seems, you know, he's just so excited. And he comes in, playing the song, we're showing him the chords, I'm showing him everything else, and I'm just doing a support line to his acoustic. I'm actually playing an electric, there was like a bass line electric thing. I'm like, great. I'm playing bass for Paul McCartney, by the way, with an octave pedal, okay, on guitar. We're doing that, it's great. Those guys come in, we start rehearsing the song, we do everything, everything's good. It goes great, and then we have a few conversations that were really cool, you know, because I said to him, I go, you don't really collaborate with many people. I know you did like Elvis Costello, Michael Jackson, like, you know, here today. He goes, yeah, man, it was cool. I kind of reached out, wanted to do something. Like, I thought it was like, why not? So really, really dope, you know, a different type of genre. So he did it. And then, because I said, you know, he goes, and then he starts bringing up, you know, because when I wrote with Jon, you know, like it was like, he was the guy, you know, and I was just like, yeah, tell me more. You know, it was like, what was that skit in Saturday Night Live when
Chris Farley
was like, yeah, you're Paul McCartney. Like, that's all I was feeling the whole time. It was like, tell me more. And he would start talking about Jon a little bit and writing with him. And 2 days go by, greatest day yet is to come. We're finishing up. We're going to Staples Center, rehearse tomorrow. We're packing up. But before we run the last time, they have a meeting, a creative meeting about the stage at the Grammys, whatever, nothing to do with me. So I have this idea, I had this exact, playing this, exactly this. I played it earlier when I first picked up the guitar. I'm like, oh, damn, I want to throw this. It wasn't that feel, but it was something, some of those chords. So I'm like, I want to throw this down on my iPhone. So I pick it up, I put it on my amp. As I'm playing it, my amp stops vibrating. So I put it in my pocket, recording. I'm playing the chords with my back turned to them, quietly. All of a sudden I hear a voice come and goes, what's that you're playing? I have to do the accent, even though it's bad, because it doesn't make sense to not do Paul McCartney without a bad Liverpudlian accent. He goes, what's that you're playing? I was doing, and then he goes, ooh, I like that. It sounds expensive. It sounds expensive. And he go, I'm sweating now. He's talking to me, and I'm sweating, and I'm like, he goes, what do you got for the chorus? Because I said, oh, it's just a little verse. And he goes, what do you got for the chorus? I'm like, don't tell me I'm writing a fucking song right now with Paul McCartney. Please don't tell me that's happening. And he goes, and I said, you know what? I said, fuck this. I go, what would you do for the chorus? He goes, oh. So, because I had this thing. It was a part of the. I was doing something. He goes, I like it. And he just starts singing. He starts singing like falsetto, Paul McCartney falsetto. And I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. And I'm writing. And then Kanye comes over and interrupts us. And he stops. And it was literally like, because he heard us writing.
Was your recorder going?
Bingo. So everybody's wrapping up now. They're saying, okay, everybody, we'll see you tomorrow at Staples Center, everything else. So I'm just like in shock. I'm standing there. And my brother Robert is my oldest. He's the oldest in the family. He's the reason why the Beatles are in our family. He was in a band in the Azores called Sombras, which is shadows. And they played on the islands, on my island in the Azores, there was an American base. So he played all the American music with 3 other Portuguese guys with the mop tops and everything. And he would entertain the American troops at bars and stuff like that after, while they're on the bass. So he played on the bass. I have photos of it. It's all black and white. They look like but they played Beatles. They played all the shit from that era. But he was the McCartney guy. And Christmas with 10 of us wasn't Christmas songs. It was the Beatles book, the fucking full booklet. We would just go through every one of them, every Christmas jams with the whole family, 4 guitars. That's all we did. So Robert had just seen him at Fenway Park as well. Sorry, Fenway Park. He's just seen him. And so I'm like, I can't tell anybody, but I'm like, fuck this. I gotta tell Robert. I just gotta tell. He's not even gonna believe it. I just spent 3 days with McCartney. I'm gonna risk it. So I'm like, where the fuck is my phone? I gotta call my brother. I'm like, fuck. It's still recording. And it was going for all that time. So I stopped it and I emailed it to myself 12 times. Literally, I'm not even joking.
Of course.
I just emailed it. I didn't know what it sounded like. It was in the pocket.
Yeah.
But there is something there. There's something there. But then I'm like, okay. Everybody's saying goodbye. Good. This is a good time to call Robert. Paul's leaving. He's like, we'll see everybody tomorrow. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody's gone. I turn over and I'm like, I'm going to call my brother. I'm like, no, fuck this. I got to see my brother's face when I tell him. So I'm like, I get on Robert. I go, I can fucking believe where I am right now. I go, I'm here in a fucking rehearsal. And then as I'm saying it, Paul's walking by me. He came back in to go to his tech. He goes to ask him a question. I'm like, fuck, I'm not supposed to be FaceTiming anybody or anything. So I'm like, I go, Robert, hold on a second. And I lean over and I'm like, just give me 1 second. Who are you talking to? Paul comes over. Who are you talking to? I'm like, oh, I'm just talking to my brother Robert. Grabs the phone, puts his arm around me. He goes, hey, Robert, how you doing, man? First of all, my brother Robert, I didn't get to tell him what was happening yet.
Right.
So the next thing he sees is me and Paul McCartney. Paul's like, I'm here with your little brother, Robert. He's doing good. He's doing good. No, we're doing good. And I go, how are you, man? And Robert's just like, and I'm like, and it's silent, and I'm just like, Robert's in his 70s. And I'm like, Robert, you say hi to Paul McCartney. And he goes, hi, we couldn't get Paul out of it. I've never seen him stutter. He's never stuttered his whole life. So he was like, hi, Paul, whatever. And he was like, okay, I gotta go. See you later. He's like, I'll see you tomorrow. I mean, how awesome can Paul McCartney be? Full circle. I would never be probably playing music if it was my brother Robert. Started with the Beatles, and to come and give a moment back to my brother like that, and Paul being that giving, to just jump on the phone instead of being like, I think 2 days ago at the Chateau Marmont, somebody was asking for a selfie with like one of the young artists. I'm like, sorry, no, I don't do selfies. And here's Paul McCartney, who's saying, give me the fucking phone. He did it to me on stage at the Grammys as well. He's like, I never asked him for one photo. And before we left, he probably noticed I never asked him for a fucking photo. He grabbed me, he goes, where's your phone? And I'll show it to you. And he's just like, he puts it up, he's holding it, and he's just like, right before we did the performance, like, who is this guy? You know what I mean? He's Paul McCartney. He's not even real. He's a god. I just remember Steven Tyler saw the thing he was recording in Nashville. He was like, he texted me, how dare you, Bettencourt? I'm over here recording a country record and you're drinking from the nectar of the gods. That was his quote. And he's right. He's like, you're fucking drinking from the nectar of the gods with McCartney, you asshole. Those moments, the chance that I got to do that, and many other things that I've gotten to do, play at the Nobel Peace Prize concert with McCartney and do Dream On, all these things, I believe, have to do with everything we talked about today.
Okay, now comes the guitar playing part. When I picked Nuno up at his hotel, he comes out without a guitar, and I thought, I guess we're not playing guitar. Nuno gets in the car and tells me, well, he never plays guitar in interviews. So I thought, okay, after 2 hours or so, I start handing Nuno one guitar after the next. Hey, check this out. And then he started playing, and we're just talking. So I thought, I'll just leave all this in. We're just having a freewheeling conversation. Check it out.
Oh my God, dare I even... But you know what I mean? Leaving like what I was saying about like making stuff open and close.
Yeah.
From like, so it feels like it's pulsating, whatever. So, when you... That's what I was... I thought I'd hear Angus play that riff.
I would.
Got an oomph to it, dude. Yeah, like a little, especially for that muted stuff. Yeah. Great, it's really got an oomph. Still swampy. It's got.
My buddy Dave that sets up my guitar sets them up. They play so well with the low action and
Dude,
everything.
the action. This is like the action that I'm always striving for, but I never get. I never get with my guitar.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes I see like, sometimes there's some guys like even on Instagram and stuff that I watch, that they could literally effortlessly play without even like picking a fucking note, and they're doing all this stuff, and I'm like, I can't do that on my guitar. I have to earn every fucking note that I play.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool in a way, but there's a part of me that's like, I'm tired of working so fucking hard to get something to happen. I should give him my guitar to set up, see what he would do.
Oh yeah, my buddy Dave's a really good guitar player too.
Yeah, the fucking harmonics that go
Yeah,
down.
only an amp will do that too.
fun to play that type of stuff on there. Wow. It's tight. I'm surprised without the red how tight the bottom end is. Cool.
Is yours a modded rat though?
No.
And so it's just a regular one, right?
Yeah.
So.
I thought he was doing all that, doing it at that speed, and I'm like, motherfucker. I'm like, and then I see him, he's not even moving, he goes. I'm like, okay. I love the way this sounds.
Just do it like this. Just do it one speed.
Something about it. You can hear that. You can really hear the pick, like you know. Wow, sounds nice. Wow, I just can't believe how like even all the way through. Like I haven't played any. All your guitars you've handed me have all been like looking down a fucking like a football field. Me, I'm like, all right, this is easy. It's gonna get harder. It's getting harder and harder. You know, like are these aren't stacked, right?
No.
Wow. You know, I used to always try to figure out like 'cause everybody thought he played up here. But he was like, why does it sound like there's only 2 strings? Because he opened it, you know. But, just, you know, the first time being in a car and fucking, I mean, this is where you're talking about what songs like Hot for Teacher came on. I remember like being young and Hot for Teacher came on the radio for the first, this is the first new thing off fucking, was it Diver Down? No, it was 1984? 1984. And you know, hearing the drums and me, all that stuff, and then he comes.
Wait a second. What? Ted Templeman. Greg Bissonette was here, right?
Yeah.
And he called Ted Templeman, and because we were talking about the beginning of Hot for Teacher. So Ted's like, oh, let me call Ted Templeman. He gets him on the phone because you heard it was Eddie's Lamborghini.
So the beginning of Hot for Teacher, everyone thought that maybe it was him tapping on boxes or whatever that they mic'd it up, and turns out it's Eddie's Ferrari. It's his muffler.
No
for
kidding.
The first 4 seconds, and then it molds into the.
It molds into the
actual
rotor
drum.
tom.
But he got Greg
Yeah.
Bissonette was here. He's a good friend of mine. He was playing on my drum set, and he's like, well, let's just call Ted Templeman. And he calls him up. He gets him on speakerphone, and he said, yeah. He said, yeah.
That's awesome.
The freaking car. It's amazing.
That's crazy.
It just happened to sync up perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually played that on drums once with Steel Panther.
Wow.
I did the fucking song. That's how much I love playing drums. I knew that more than they, you know. I mean, I think I remember on the guitar. You know that one? Yeah. Okay. What was it? Yeah. I played well. Yeah, it's been a while. Nice. Oh man, I can't remember. Yeah, that crazy swing. Oh yeah.
That's the.
What a great solo.
Oh,
My
yeah.
God. All from here to here, back down to here to here. It's like, he knew how to fucking, like, where was that coming from? But think about it, with that fucking groove, who writes a solo to that fucking groove? You know, it's like, and it's like, all right, go. They're like, and as clean as this. He was clean. That's the thing that that's the thing that he subtly did, which was really fucking bizarre, that nobody ever talks about, is, you know, when you heard all the stuff that he was doing, you know, was it the... No. Yeah, whatever. You know. All that stuff is heavy. It was a lot more saturated, but every album, it got cleaner. By the time you get to fucking 1980, like Diver Down, you know, it seems heavy, but it was cleaner. By the time you got to fucking 1984, and you hear that, you hear the isolated tracks or anything with those, like, you know, How to Teach It, it's cleaner than this.
It is cleaner. That's
it's
right.
fucking clean. It just got cleaner
Yeah.
and cleaner and cleaner as it got later. And people don't do that. It's usually the other way around.
It's usually the other way,
It's usually
yeah.
the other way around
'Cause
because you
most-
need more help. But this dude is like he's getting more into Halen Holdsworth and all that area he was doing. So everything was getting a lot cleaner and just cleaner. But in my head, it was always, but it's not this. It's like this, almost like a clean, it's almost like a clean distortion. Not like, I don't even know how to describe it. It seems like it's going backwards, like from clean to distortion, not like it's taking saturation off of something. It's like a cleaner amp, which is really impressive because all that stuff is really, I don't know what the word. It's like, that's not easy to do with that fucking. But you hear a lot more of the almost Strat style. You almost hear more of like a Stratty sort of guitar that he's playing. Yeah.
Those pickups on this don't sound like a Strat. They sound like stacked.
Yeah,
Like a stacked
dude.
humbucker.
Well, I thought they were stacked.
Yeah.
Even when I'm doing this.
Yeah. Those are all single coils.
That's single coil.
I know, it's crazy, right? I forget what pickups those are. They're like a 61 Strat that you stick in other pickups or something.
Yeah, really great song. If guitar set up like this, you can't stop playing because they're just like, it's like, play me more. No wonder I don't see my guitar for 6 months. Yeah.
I'm not sure what gauge strings are on that. Maybe 9s are on that.
I think it feels like a 9 maybe.
I think it's a 9. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the same gauge on every guitar. I put on whatever gauge the guitar plays the best with.
Wow. It's cool.
That's awesome.
All right, so when do we start the interview?
With all that muting, I mean, did you learn that from somebody, or is that just your style? That you,
Muting? Am I even muting? Was I just muting?
it sounds like you.
I don't even know.
Get your palm laid across the string.
Oh, it's always there, but I think the main muting thing came from controlling the guitar. You know,
Yeah,
'cause
so-
if you don't,
Yeah, you're meeting this other strings.
yeah, I'm always like, I'm always muting whatever. But I don't know why I think that's an Edward thing. It sounds like maybe, you know, like whatever no matter what he did, he wasn't like, it's a, everything feels, but I don't know that I did it because of him or anything. It just sounded that way. So you're always playing, you know, no matter what you're not playing, you're muting, and then you just add more on what you're playing, I guess, if you want. I don't know. When Rise came out and that muted thing happened, some dude was really pissed off. He's like, because people are like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, oh, I'm sorry, haven't you guys been listening to him? Like 93 on Peacemaker Die or whatever. Like, there's a thing. Like, he goes, and he said this. I don't know if this is true or not, but he goes, what tapping is for Eddie, that's what muting is for Nuno. He said. He goes, that's like his thing that he just does, that we know that's why he sounds like he does. And I was like, oh wow. Why is tapping way more sexier than muting though? Like, but that's a whole other thing.
Peacemaker does have that whole section though.
Yeah, there's a part where it's like, you're right, where it's, wait. Wait, is that? Oh, you talk about the solo. So when I was trying, I didn't have a slide, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna make it sound like.
Oh yeah.
What was it? I can't remember. Oh, and then it was. Oh, you talk about the.
Yes, that.
Wait. Wow, it's so clean. Hold on. What was it? Oh, fuck. I can't remember the rest of it. It was a whole thing, a whole run. It came up and down. I can't remember it. Fuck.
And then it comes out of it.
Oh yeah. Chromatic. Oh, it was the Martin Luther King speech.
Yes.
I had a dream speeches and then. Okay, wow, you fucking blow my mind. All right. Yeah, I remember there was that. I can't remember though, like where it went to different places. I don't know. I'm having a fucking. All I'm hearing is Rise now.
That would have been a bitch for anybody to learn though. Like trying to pick the notes out of what you were doing.
Yeah, the thing that's most deceiving is like there's not as much going on this side, and there's a lot of up. People, I think.
You have a lot of up picks.
Well, all of it is.
That's right. Because you're hammering.
Yeah.
You're hammering in your big end upbeats.
But I know when I did. That was more open, and that's a different picking thing. But yeah, I've always done it, even in the middle of a solo, whatever. It's. I guess I think I don't know if that's from like the Al Di Meola stuff. I don't know, but it was a big Al Di Meola. Like the Electric Rendezvous album was my favorite, like one of my favorite Al Di Meola albums. The stuff that he does on there, that's like so fucking cool.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. This means a lot to me. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. All right. Wait, I'm not gonna play electric.
Now you're gonna play
and
electric.
Cut. That's it.
No, now you're gonna play electric.
No.
Come on, man.
No.